The Book of Auras. Jos Cruz. For those who still do not know me by what I write, I can only illustrate this work about the auras, reflects a stage of my spiritual development, and therefore do not have much regard for many years, and much less turn it into the book. But as a result of numerous people as need me, in watching lectures and witnessing some knowledge in practical terms to my part, for human auras, the making known to all, for the uses in its own benefit without, I felt I should move to the role that knowledge, who presented issues, if only that each individual aura, are aimed at people who felt that they needed help in their lives. Always with the therapeutic purpose, giving only as a girth, but after writing, Reunion of Light, an early self-help books and personal development, my spirit illuminated, asked me to bring all these issues in book. Faced with such a request, had to gather all the previous descriptions of auras, this same work, pre-opening to even more knowledge, which has since been acquired, for the purpose of people if they can rediscover themselves and identify their intimate, seeking and learning to relate for those already familiar with previous work in this follows the same term. To make known the true dimensions of the sacred, and that touches the heart of each one. Jos Cruz. 4. Who knows a little about me, nothing is there to add, just feel. For people who still do not know me, I comment that only have a 9th schooling completed about half a dozen years ago. And I present this humble form, stripped of what you want dogmas, prejudices and rationalism in a frank and pure, giving me complete freedom to address issues more complex the mind and the human spirit. Due to not be religious or have to express myself through academic learning, give me the natural power of sharing the knowledge of my natural essence without taboos, as well as the universe, only then, it is possible in an innovative, simple front and pass this message to ordinary people like me. Having the experience as the only master and spiritual ground. In this life and previous reincarnations, I have the ability to reach me only where this is required by the universe, just using me the inspiration that is given me by my spirit illuminated, in times of no mind, as well as the power of intuition, without the need that many people feel to have a job, having to rely on doctorates, straws, etc. And then some of them, and with respect for others, just write straw or use vocabulary often incomprehensible for many readers, the so-called intellectuals, vain academics, who write for fame or money. Grateful. The Book of Auras. A light of wisdom. Throughout my life I got to know all kinds of people, and how to save me the target is something unknown to me at first. I was always taking notes through my consciousness, people who feel attracted or repelled that interact with them in many different aspects of my experience ground. At that consciousness, were retained for many years of memories and behaviors of these facts people. Up to that, from the time that I began to feel enlightened by the spiritual light, now I feel lights. I began to identify the colors of the auras of things, animals, and plants through the third vision. The soft and squishy I felt compelled to unravel, to the extent that my view would be increasingly widening. Jos Cruz. The Book of Auras. How I began to identify the colors of human auras, resembling as something sacred, by my spirit, which began identify intuitively these aura colors. With the people I had been dealing, live and deep knowledge, either externally or internally for many years as a puzzle to treat you. Once through this union of spiritual consciousness and the universe went through the process of refinement that I was imposed by the universal law. Moving later to feel entitled, and never before to spread such knowledge and to whoever it was. One could add that there is much that is described in this work, was acquired along the earliest times, through physical practice, meditation and astral travel. What is the result of the same can visit any part of the universe, in times past, present or future. Thus it is possible to visit many places of learning, including any universities spiritual where you can read whatever it is related to humanity. And then bring back to the ground dimension. Jos Cruz. 8. The Book of Auras. Introduction to Aura. The aura is made up of 4 layers or fields. 1 St of the physical body aura, 2 Nd astral aura, 3rd mental aura, 4th etherico body aura. What I will mention is the astral aura. During in your life have been the experience may have been dealing with someone or known about a person. When they get near them, you feel very close to that person, it appears peace and light, and his energy is contagious, it could almost be touched. Others, however, felt an unpleasant sensation of malaise, as if to suck our own energy. This is where having the power to delete or illuminate the environment, reflects the power of aura. The aura is made up of 1 or more colors. Hence, the essence of the aura, all human thoughts and actions belong to good and evil. The thickness of the aura and its color is proportional to the quantity and quality of good and bad thoughts. Inside, when a person does well, feels a conscientious satisfaction. These thoughts are converted into light, adding to the light of the spiritual body. Jos Cruz. 10. When the reverse, the thoughts and acts are evil, become dark clouds in the spiritual body, so what changing the basic colors of auras? It is due to such a person starts developing problems, mental and physical, in the form going so slow its development physical, mental and spiritual. The Book of Auras. A brief explanation of the astral aura. The aura is made up of the vapors that rise from the physical body through breathing pores, which can get around the physical body, or up and focusing on the top of the head or around her. This movement is due to physical exertion, thoughts, emotions, and other sufferings. So that in contact with the heavenly light is reflected, becoming a field of light aurica. It can also be considered as magnetic field. This is the light that when they come into contact with other rays of light coming from the cosmos, intensify type magnifying glass, getting exposed so that they can be seen by people who have developed this ability. The diameter of auras as well as its thickness and color, which in many beings of light cannot pass only a few centimeters, while other meters or kilometers as even possible to cover an entire planet, as with Jesus, Buddha, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, among other beings of light. Jos Cruz. 12. The Book of Auras. Application of the book. The Book of Auras is taken into account for various applications. In governing the welfare of people in any aspect, depending only and solely the good use, and a proper application that people want to give him consciously. Whether a query to the person, to better recognize inwardly or outwardly, problems related to health in general, or how to feel the quality of people that surround it, leading to figure out how to think, feel, and the form and manner to interact on a daily basis with them in a healthy way without them realizing it, thus adopting a way of being and interacting with these people, in many cases helping one way or another, to understand consciously to themselves, going somewhat against the supreme power that governs all. It also applies to personal and spiritual development. If extending to all humanity, recognizing a certain color of right and aura of anyone including the person himself, later I shall explain, the way it is possible to access this technique can be through the view or not that same aura. Is extremely important to identify a particular color of aura, for a variety of applications that you want to give that a major and much attention to it, is intended only for the recovery of people, sick or otherwise destabilized, always aiming to do well. And never the other way around, but could be seriously hurt. Jos Cruz. 14. I repeat, not want to be boring and very careful attention, as apply what is described in this book. Going all the responsibility rests with each of you so sharp and aware. When you access such a color or and the same exists or points in the same dark clouds. It means, to the extent that those who are darker, the greater the problem the person has, whether physical or mental in the forum. That person to develop the ability to view, and then correctly identify by focusing only on the affected area, or the problem itself, is likely to remove, depending only on the ability of each one, whether for your own sake or for others. The Book of Auras. Meaning of the aura colors. The colors in the rainbow are the same basic that can be found in human auras. And it is about those same colors which I will clarify their meaning, which they propose manifesting in person. There will be some doubts about the significance of people, and matching colors to themselves. This is only due to the fact that people were away over the life of your base color from birth, like its natural essence. Because of egos, intellectualism, malice, pride, addictions, social status, among other dependencies. If you should just forget that the person who was as a child, thus changing their behavior patterns and thus changing its basic color consciously or unconsciously, allowing other colors to join this. Jos Cruz. 16. The Book of Auras. Visualization Techniques. For the Human Aura. Jos Cruz. 18. The Book of Auras. First technical. Well, to view and identify to own aura is as follows. Put yourself in front of a mirror with your back near a wall or sheet, and always white with some light, whether natural or artificial. Being able to sit or stand at the beginning, but should be seated, because sometimes it takes some time to show your aura color. Then relax to the max, and will set your field of vision in the mirror in the middle of their eyes without blinking, as if staring off into the void, always naturally and without thinking. And when you least expect it the first time, a time of no mind, without any thought to his aura is revealed to you. As you are centered in the head, then see more near the head about 2 to 4 inches a white color, which covers the entire body like a veil in the oval. But do not call this white dark, because it is the aura of the physical body, which in time will also in detail view more. The interest that presents itself on the head, the astral, such as certain paintings come in a golden sounce over his head radiating colors of light when you see this color through its third vision, which is in the midst of his eyes, and only through it have access to this view, with the call Luklam Evil Dead. That is just looking and completely relaxed. Jos Cruz. 20. The predominant color, as you can see, this is the basic color of your aura. When this happens, it is to feel something in your intimate confirming this assurance. Even if you take practice sometimes takes some time, but you can always go training now in animals, plants, clouds, etc., to develop the power of visualization and become familiar with it, because everything has auras, being able to extend to people, just always looking for a good backdrop, where color is preferably the lighter the better. Now attention that some people have such a total absence of color in your aura, or black, and not its basic color. This usually happens to many women when they are pregnant, due to the fact that protect the little baby being that bring with them. Because the energy that circulates in the body drop to the region over the belly and legs, that's why the legs swell, not only because of excess pregnancy weight, but getting the aura deprived of its energy and basic color on the top of the head region. The Book of Auras. To ND Technical. It presents a little easier and faster for people who do not have much time available, and do not want to broaden their knowledge on this part. The person closes his eyes calmly, focusing on its third vision, with the eyes looking into your chakra front of the A's in half about 40 seconds. And mentally question only once. Spirit tells me what color my aura. Very soon the spirit responds by telling him the basic color of your aura, to realize the power of visualization in others. You see them between the eyes or the front chakra where lies the third vision of the person concerned, also for about 40 seconds without the person realizing it. And then closes his eyes with that view, and asking the same way the spirit, questioning the inside. Spirit tells me what color the person's aura X, there is no need to apply names. May the spirit of those who want to know how this comes in direct contact with the spirit of the person concerned. Then open your eyes and reset again in the third person view. But that is not the answer came, when he had his eyes closed, then will come. Remember always to thank after finishing his spirit. Jos Cruz. 22. The Book of Auras. Crystal. Aura. Jos Cruz. 24. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1, The Being of Tomorrow. These new beings crystalline only started. More quantity will be born in about 30 years ago, which for the most part are still babies or young people, and others have gone through adulthood. Over the centuries they have always been born, but sporadically. As was the case of Jesus, Buddha and other enlightened beings of light completely, and many of them never came to be known. I feel these babies having a massive energetic completely different. I regard it as being more subtle, bright and resplendent than any other color of aura. It can also be noted that they are smart enough, with new colleges and developed, is very talented, and that aspect is, which will be welcome to enhance humanity by those few who are here on behalf of human evolution. It is they who began to take the place of auras indigos in the evolution of the universe. Indigos have come to clear the company and the prejudices created by it, and thus paving the way for future immigrants crystalline. And they are beginning to awaken the consciousness of all humanity, for the evil they have done to the planet, as well as his fellows. Jos Cruz. 26. Just as with regard to spiritual growth, which is in this state that most human beings need to evolve, the person with the color of aura crystal is a natural healer and medium. It uses personal energy or cosmic rays, transforming it into bandages. Its way or the channel through which all beings need healing. It has the personal power and spiritual power to penetrate in the souls, and from the start the process so that healing is possible, because only through the soul is that anyone can be healed, both in the psyche as physical in the forum. For this to be is very difficult when there's no one to teach him how to deal with this natural gift of healing. It is a type of person who does not like to be seen. It is often taken for granted in their aura other colors, when much to protect themselves. Only this way will it not being will change your energy field, thus sick for having retained a color in your aura that is not yours. A lot of times to look good, unconsciously turns out to confuse others. When there's someone at your time will help you discover your energetic powers. It tends to hide the emotional part. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2, Your Way to Being and Being. The person with this aura color is very sensitive physically. The noises and everything is clean and realistic. Because it is a being who lives in communion with the light as an adult. Do not give up anything you lived as a child, the views that had fairy, fantasy, interior lights and others that gave him the pleasure of being who he was. As she gets older, he finds that to stay on earth, will have to change. So trying to create in the world will form a perfect, which displays through the spirit. Where this is not, takes refuge at home, opting for cleaning and tidying often. Need plenty of room inside. It considers being his castle. How is a very intuitive person, like to have your private space where only allow family and friends closer, more intimate, disliking the meetings because they do not feel comfortable with the invasion of their intimate space. Work on this earth to be stabilizing and is satisfactory, so the aura crystal this exercise may be worth to feel better. Gardening, taking care of indoor plants or growing and drying herbs. Teas gives you an emotional satisfaction, and physics, it is difficult to achieve in any other activity. Working with the land also gives you plenty of time peaceful and serene, to be alone with his spirituality and nature, and need to balance your physical, mental, spiritual. Jos Cruz. 28. The therapeutic is ideal for this kind of being, in any branch of medicine, as well as other health-related area. This being auric crystal can handle and apply the energy that has itself, or the cosmos sends applying it in others, thus healing the psyche and the soul. All people have an aura crystal shape to increase the energy they have, and pass through them. This gift is strong but somewhat secret, because a large part of his personality is conscious to maintain and safeguard these ways of healing. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3, Ways of Learning. The aura crystal is to be well developed, with focus on the mental part. It is a person who loves to read information material daily to stay updated to the society. have a preference between film and theater, because it is from there as a young man learns to have proper behavior towards others and society, in the preferred reading books to enable it to understand the habits and morals of contemporary society. He also likes motivational books, letters, diaries, biographies, history, life stories, some poetry and philosophy. Also, being an adult, continues to have a preference for books of jokes or cartoons that make you laugh and keep a good mood. This person with this color of aura spends much time thinking about what you believe in, meditating and analyzing the details of your life, but few people consider themselves spiritual or a crystal, although they are quite. This is largely due to lack of knowledge of them. Staying connected unconsciously, then more the mental part. Jos Cruz. 30. For this to be the powerful and spirituality is a great size, not the poor who will feel sensations throughout life, increasing your own. When a crystal aura is not elucidated about the powers he has, by someone trained to do so, tends to spend a lifetime suffering to him. When you cannot identify the vital impulses that come from all over the universe, at the same time would help to relate and develop deep, with the divine in its evolution as a being of light. These internal drives, when they are ignored, the person without realizing it begins to have health problems in many different ways, feeling your life is not flowing as it should be. Going to be increasingly confused as to what is happening inside, without understanding why you are living a life without meaning and connection, lives only rationally. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4, Your Development. This is crystals with this color spectrum, from an early age like to learn everything and anything. Hard work is conscientious and intelligent. Matters relating to foreign languages, accounting and mathematics will arouse little interest. He did not care much, just only the essentials to thrive in society. These types of learning call you a level of dedication and effort that in many cases have similar difficulty. But if you say that when it comes to all that is creative and applied it is very good. Regarding the arts in general, it is always the possibility of putting in harmony their natural talents through their intuition. The arts or healing, whether in medicine, psychotherapy, nursing, he shines. In the arts in general, can harmonize your natural talents with his intuitive way to learn and create. Regarding this being cures, can learn and develop all the professions that are somehow linked to health very easily, just by connecting with himself without hassle. Jos Cruz. 32. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5, Forms and Attitudes. The aura crystal person has the power to delay or absorb the other colors in the universe, in proportional shares of the other colors' auras, the holding in his being for the time necessary for its implementation. For example, a part of crystal aura of the person can turn green, when it interacts with another aura green. One of crystal aura has a capacity to camouflage their color by absorbing rays of other colors of aura without any harm to another person. Conversely, when this happens, the person aura green, feel more vitalized and release as if a weight if it is. This is one of the gifts that a conscious crystal aura holds. When you do this, can take various forms, features and languages, thoughts and attitudes, sometimes when necessary to reach auras memories of other colors, these people are alive or dead. These facts often confuse family and friends, when they are not attuned to it, can sometimes lead to small situations of misunderstanding between them. About the children, the parents of crystal aura children seem not to care about the discipline and forms of education. Jos Cruz. 34. Similarly, parents with other colors of aura are upset when the children of crystal aura pull back on the emotional, without giving any indication of what they are thinking or feeling. In general, these parents find it very difficult to relate to a child, it changes its behavior at any instant. About the mental level of the person or a crystal is not very flexible in their spontaneous responses, more closely resemble the plays you like, makes use of such knowledge often acting as if he had a script before. Therefore usually a shy person, retracting a lot and most of the time, he enjoys most part will be in different situations, just waiting and feeling. It is a type of person who trusts too much in others. Typically family members are always a few, as well as friends too. Often depending on them to identify him, to build their identity or to keep in contact and decide before the society. One of crystal aura is a very fragile mental, costing you to keep your nervous system balanced. When this happens, it tends to relate to their spirits. That's where you feel safe, in the depths of his being. When later comes up, other people are baffled by what happened to him. This is crystal color, rarely shows his deepest feelings. Even in times of crisis, what do you think is best, but not spontaneously, as do other beings with other colors of auras. Because of its strong intuition, feels that their true feelings are misunderstood, so much to deny these to share the deepest parts of themselves. That's the way it is to digest the tension, turning to its interior, gives it an aura of coolness and mental impossibility. This person's aura crystal is quite delicate, humble, tender and fragile. Taking other people with other auric colors has a stronger tendency to try to manipulate. The Book of Auras. This is where he feels misunderstood, leading him to feel like part ignored in many situations for others. This only happens to you because it gives them power to do so. Partly suffer for it, can sometimes feel bad for all that the mind makes you feel. And if it is misunderstood, this is due to their inability to make him understood. Jos Cruz. 36. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6, Social Behavior. A crystal aura, when it has its open energy channels, through which flows the cosmic energy, socially can heal others, making use of their inner strength, detached from any emotional, personal, or money, and therefore his work is pure. In most cases the people he does not work, nor do they make for it. However, in a relationship, that his way of being, and sometimes causes a deep pain and confusion in those who require it to. Because among those closest to him somehow, he just wants to evolve by them, since he was no more than a simple master, to clarify when necessary. One of crystal aura is in part a bit lonely, because his nature is so. Friends and family need to learn to deal with it, but without the press a lot about responsibility. Socially have a hard time when he is with others, and vice versa. Because of his shyness and lack of self-confidence in himself mentally and physically, become withdrawn and insecure in the booth. In general, he feels uncomfortable in large crowds, and is disoriented and confused in social situations, often feeling displaced. How have few methods to deal with social situations, try to understand what goes, sometimes throwing blame on others. Jos Cruz. 38. It is often very critical moment for others, and even for him, thus overturning the low self-esteem he feels for himself. It is very difficult for a person to have a crystal aura appropriate social behavior, because their consensus protocol is of the most diverse, as cinema, radio, TV, books and others. For this to be the life is like a play. He feels he has to represent, but do not know how. Because most of that time he feels like he does not belong to the earth. One of his biggest challenges is to stop trying to fool the meaning of his mission that brought him to earth. He need to stop pretending that you are following the rules imposed by society, just because you think it is his obligation. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7, Sexuality. This human being has a tendency to have very low sex drive. Because the sexually unite means you need to mix your aura with the other person, it will deprive them of their autonomy, their individuality and their identity. Withdrawing mentally gives an illusion of coolness. A big question for this type of being is that it can really enjoy sex, but its consequences can be as physically and emotionally overwhelming that often does not feel at ease to get involved. When abstinence lasts long, it tends to get pretty frigid. The solution to this problem is if the person of crystal aura and your partner come to sleep in separate beds, separate rooms, or to practice tantric. Without a company that understands that, by middle age there is content to go without sex in a relationship, due to begin to turn more to spirituality. Achieving change your lifestyle, often preferring solitude, choosing to live alone because it gives you peace and security to rediscover himself. As a person of crystal aura has no flexibility in social situations, seems to have little personal power. Solving this part with the ability to gather, not revealing what you feel, and give the impression of distance and detachment from the things. Jos Cruz. 40. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Business. About business, feels very well what is viable or not. It is very complete to present research work involving many people, but the energy expended their power easily. This where is about that often feel confused and overwhelmed by the weight of his own good intentions. It is for this who feels the world as a scary place in situations that most other people, with other colors auras, feel quite at ease. That leaves a little sluggish, often agitated and confused. Jos Cruz. 42. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Financial Part. The aura crystal is quickly realizes the implications of a particular financial situation can cause, due to his visionary perspective on the economy. Intuitively be aware of the fact or not, can soon make right decisions and secure. With respect to earn cash in a creative way, this has to be very difficult. Can you feel more accomplished this partly through something already experienced by him, managing existing business or invest in property when possible? Do not have that dynamic creativity to start a business, not managing to keep a good business without the help of others, but with a good support group made up of administrators and people who make decisions. The aura crystal is able to keep away the need to make decisions over longer baked. New or newly established companies require more personal interaction than he may not be able to take. At companies recent and not so well established, you need more than an administrator of an executive iron, is more suitable for him. With regard to money and everything that involves finances are active, more real for him to deal with them at will. The aura crystal is being very responsible and careful with their own money. Do you feel that you have to pay taxes and all accounts to date certain, without ever being late? It is part of their social integrity. Jos Cruz. 44. The feeling of not acting properly, even so insignificant, is not scary in any way. Wanting to lose their sense of freedom, which feeds both them mentally or spiritually. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Professional Skills. Anyone with crystal aura gets along well in any occupation that allows him to work alone in something that somehow enhances your life. To do this requires a structured environment, personal and quiet, with a regular routine. Does well as a librarian, as a writer to write what you will in the soul, can be a scientist or researcher, regarding the medical, technical or biological. Succeeds well in any job that requires repetition and attention to detail, much attention to repetitive work, because later you will come to bring bone problems due to wear them. This kind of being with this color crystal aura is very rare, but does very well in all branches of the medical profession. As a rule presents an austere and distant with her patients, as she feels she is there to heal and not to please people. Treat or cure is just your mission as being of light, and as such has come to earth. It is with appreciation and a quiet dignity that delivers the spirit, in causes such as nursing homes, hospitals and caring for patients, in most cases without charge. If you can stand out as the spiritual master, teacher or leader of prayer groups, also feels like a fish in water. This being feels compelled to drive intuitively and gently, leading the disciples in the ways that lead to the study and a deeper understanding of themselves. This does not mean he does well in all forms of education. Jos Cruz. 46. The secular school system touches you very deeply, both teaching and learning, leaving him confused and disoriented, due to predefined rules, and the demand of people. Primarily by contact with different identities which confuse its gentle auric field. As regards the last part, just looks. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Spirituality. For the person holding a crystal aura, the topic spiritual means living peacefully, knowing that soon it will be reabsorbed in essence that understands everything. What is the source of light which emanated to incarnate in a human? The crystal color is a delicate and unique tone, breast, at the time of his birth. Being with that color is easily aura, because it has an internal mechanism spiritual, to tune in accuracy to align the healing energies of love in the universe and therefore available within it. Beings like crystal aura indigo is unique and separate from all other auras of other colors, because both have special gifts and talents, especially psychic, paranormal and spiritual. With the discovery of new sophisticated technologies, turned to the poles again awakened spiritual, and the permanent threat to the planet, and new alternatives are needed to resolve these situations. World. The survival of the species will depend increasingly attitudes and postures. What technology, intellect or brute force by the human being? This stage of our experience requires a change of consciousness, an inner change in every being. Only be achieved through the development of the Holy Hand, the awakening of all consciousness and spirituality. Jos Cruz. 48. The aura crystal can be one of the most powerful bridges to the new awakening of conscience and action. Their mission in life is to heal, not only the body but also the soul, and it can stretch the planetary soul. When this being is in harmony with its vital work, you feel healthy and happy, fully functioning, synchronized and at peace with itself and with others. But when you refuse to acknowledge your gift and work through it, your life becomes miserable, unhappy, confused and full of despair. Because he did not channel the energy it absorbs from the universe, with those that your biorhythm is abroad. Come to turn in own martyrdom, causing him to feel lonely and unpredictable, as if waiting for his own physical death. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Energy Application. This is crystal light experienced and learned the life lesson of all other beings with auras of other colors. And it presents an extreme anticipation that during his youth absorbs, without having to experience living like the others. Usually he has a limited repertoire of behaviors, which gives a higher freedom in situations of healing. It is not restricted to the limitations that affect other people, feeling free to explore other symptoms, causes and points of entry of the disease in the physical, mental and spiritual. This is aura crystal is the link, the physical bridge between the Godhead, and the source of energy in the human beings. Users of this practice have the ability to transform energy, sometimes narrowing them, focusing them and directing them to be used in specific situations and causes, always in the field of healing and nothing else. It is as if it were a funnel into which the energy is poured. Then this energy is transmuted to specific therapies or cures, which in turn are applied to patients in different ways. This being absorbs knowledge from different sources. Looking at them, breaking them, change them, catalog them and organize them in your mental file of information. Can this be the long hours of satisfaction and well-being? In return also requires a way of life and peaceful existence and their own, away from the busy world. Jos Cruz. 50. This type of being, crystal, tends to always be in training during most of his life, and only going to exercise the gifts that have until much later, due to the fact that the West over the centuries, have not evolved spiritually. And so it becomes difficult to find a spiritual master time he can train the teaching needed to use such powers and natural gifts. It should be noted that many times physical frailty and mental vulnerability and a family atmosphere aggressive, due to misunderstanding by the people closest to interact with these beings, prevent many people from crystal aura to become more open as to the accuracy of their true gifts, and the real meaning of his mission that brought them to earth. The Book of Auras. Yellow. Aura. Jos Cruz. 52. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 Habits. People of color yellow aura are the most affected by the biochemical balance in the body. When you do not take precautions, that is to live constantly in the mind without paying attention to your intuition, tend to get physical addictions or habits, sometimes violent as well as developing bodily desires. Need to learn and to recognize and act on the symptom that flows in the physical body. The joy we feel in life is the best ways to measure your success. When you feel any joy is when he touches your inner wisdom. In expressing his feelings through what he does, he can organize your life so that in everything he does, brings you a full satisfaction. It is through this example that while he teaches you what is in the soul. Jos Cruz. 54. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2 The Sensations. This being with yellow aura realizes the meaning of things through the sensations you feel in your body. The yellow is a color that most of the universes vibrate. Just to say that this person with this color aura has a physical reaction before it is a logical answer that comes through the mind. For example, when you enter a room with enough people, you feel immediately through its strong intuition and energy that exists in the air. If it is negative or positive, you have a sense of well-being. Means that energy is positive, if not neither heat nor the place immediately going away. It has well-developed biological mechanisms that capture these situations is everywhere and people. It is the power that gives it its color yellow aura. All these sensations make it somewhat sensitive, non-verbal communication with others. But when he goes inside to know the answers himself, but finds it difficult to admit to him and to others. When you feel embarrassed by anything, manifested a restless or agitated behavior, such as tapping the table with the fingers or not sit still with your feet on the ground. It is not intended to be rude, your body is asking you to keep moving. Your challenge is to recognize this behavior and rediscover the best ways to comply with him. Jos Cruz. 56. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 The Instability Physics. Due to stimulation of the biochemical system, often wake up with headaches. Not sure of its location because he cannot translate it, that would help a lot to make sense of things in life in general. Often tries to ignore the pain they traded for a nice feel, so you can accept and can understand. People or a yellow almost entirely, in an attempt to ignore the pain in the morning, are taken to make something of painkiller, acquiring certain specific habits, such as that of coffee, chocolate, or medicine. As they lose control of themselves, they advance to the alcohol or tobacco, often simultaneously, making them dependent on them, in many cases. What with the drag of time can give to ingest drugs harder to maintain order during the day. The aura yellow feel the world through your physical body, but does not always understand the body stimulus feels. Why be one focused more on the mental part, and this part has no explanatory power to these feelings, because it already belongs to the spiritual jurisdiction. One of his major objectives is to find practical ways of dealing with physical pain and the inconvenience that this brings. The trick is to trick the body into other addicting substances. Biochemicals are produced naturally by the body and are harmless, as the endorphins that are released by the brain at times. Jos Cruz. 58. What may appear to develop any physical activity without straining too much, or through meditation. Because the cycle by lowering brain slows the mind and the pain is offset by the brain releases endorphins. For this to be, life is a tightrope to be on call. On one side are the substances that constitute a dangerous dependence, like coffee, soft drinks, chocolate, processed foods, white flour, etc., drugs, alcohol, tobacco and other synthetic substances. That is all that is against a good energy flow, narrowing the channels through which passes this energy, giving you an illusion of well-being. On the other hand, are the natural endorphins produced by the body, which give the feeling of peace. Various activities can help you produce these substances, as exercise, sex, meditation and laughter, etc. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 Sexuality. The yellow aura needs to be sexually active. Because sexual activity is a great way to get exercise, and at the same time brings a sense of well-being difficult to achieve in other ways. At the moment of orgasm, he can reach out and touch your deepest intimate and knowing accompanying ecstasy. Because sexual activity releases an energy wave of well-being, circulating throughout the body, relaxing the mind, revitalize it, and in many cases play that is holy. This feeling can last all day, as you walk in the clouds. When this happens, it wakes up one morning with eyes shining like stars. Does he feel safe and happy? And then you can concentrate on developing skills and talents that will increase your self-esteem and their self-confidence. Jos Cruz. 60. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Physical Exercise. Exercise should be part of everyday life. That aura is yellow. Running, walking, swimming, cycling, tennis, dancing or doing other activities that produce a good blood circulation. 45 minutes per day of one of these activities allow the flow of biochemical substances through the system. But contrary should avoid impact activities such as aerobic exercise, and hammers striking bone structure and can cause stress on joints and vertebrae. It is very susceptible to damage in the knees, elbows, shoulders and back. The Tai Chi and Yoga are active forms of meditation, and prayer for him represent a third type of positive addiction. Active forms of meditation are those in which the mind focuses on the body. This meditation helps meet the needs of natural endorphins. It also allows you to change the state of consciousness in a natural way, instead of doing it artificially. When the mind focuses on something, the body is relaxed, allowing inspiration, new ideas and solutions to flow into. The aura is yellow harmonizes this way not only the body but also the spirit. Jos Cruz. 62. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Creativity. A person holding a yellow aura is very bright and creative. But in all, it is an intellectual. Their mental abilities apply in practice, shines more when you are learning in a practical way. He loves what he is learning. When to learn things is connected to universal, feels good and happy with himself. The best way to learn is by doing. For example, how cannot sit still for long periods of time, it retains the information until a certain point. On the contrary, here the instructions of a body indicate that data overload. Yellow aura people learn well when they are just absorbed in other things. Type radar identifies the things in the air. These beings' yellow aura likes to get involved physically in any learning process, make us retain knowledge. Their supervisors, teachers, coaches and teachers need to use methods of the type is to learn, and should provide you with lots of breaks so he can stretch his legs, when the job is sitting. Need to move to digest new information. Jos Cruz. 64. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 The Emotions. The aura is yellow, it's lovely and likes to please, affectionate, funny, cheerful and reliable. His natural frankness makes it difficult to hide anything. It is naive, your feelings are hurt easily, and are never hidden. He hates to see someone with anger, hurt or suffering. Do you feel bad in these situations, and instinctively seek distraction both for themselves and for others, engaging in any activity rather than attempting to resolve the situation in question? Often tells jokes or jokes at the wrong time because of their need to avoid confrontation. When the feelings and needs come into harmony, he simply ignores the situation and pretend does not exist. He has the power to stay connected to your inner child, which exists in the depths of your being, and how transparent it is. Normally a very fun person, not giving rise to sadness. Because to laugh and make others laugh. It is quite open and full of awe and amazement at the world around them, expressing certain innocence and a strong confidence. It is very anxious when it comes to discover and experience the world. Cynicism is not part of his personality, and it often seems too confident for his own good, is its natural form. When it makes contact with the child that dwells within him, loves everything and anything. When you contact with people who love and recognize their talents, one feels inner peace. When the mind recognizes it, disarms the spirit who dwells within his heart. Jos Cruz. 66. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Part of your social. Friendly, active, open, fun, be known yellow aura enjoy the good times. He loves people and the outdoors. Activities such as picnics, sports games or spend a few days on the beach are ideal for him. This type of person who loves this color aura parties. All respect to activities having to do with this part social organization of events, football games, dances, parties, etc. A person is required, because she has spirit of fun. She loves to socialize, and think others are like him. Thus often drag other people more undecided due to the strong insistence of the aura is yellow. For her it is just a joke, showing camaraderie with others. She always seems to be very active, very fun, surrounded by friends and companions. However, it also has its quiet side. It is part of the family needs, home security, the feeling of being part of something bigger. Because of its open and trusting nature, is often mistaken. In a relationship your partner is often the support you need, when things go wrong. As it has a very strong sex drive, often marry early, but a wedding ahead of time can be dangerous for this type of person. Since it is still very young, do not understand that your partner is not the source of satisfaction for all your needs. Jos Cruz. 68. From there you cannot have the ability to perform the adult role of parent. On the other hand, if you find someone who can give you care and help you reach new prospects you can feel the full found happiness in marriage or relationship together. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Spirit Leader. Yellow is a color of leadership. Yellow one aura leads through the sheer joy of feeling among the people. How is a master of laughter? She's always accompanied by His Majesty laugh that touches everyone. It is quite comedian taking those dealing with in accordance with it the respect it and love it. As regards the rise as a leader, is not a being that does not have the skills to enter professional built, nor has the coolness needed to climb to the top of a climbing business. Instead, he inspires confidence by his good college to help with your patience and good humor. As described above, this is learn for him, and likewise leads doing. She loves to show off their skills as is usually attracted to more physical pursuits, likes to show how the thing is done, and a great leader on tasks that depend on the practice, because the patient is taught in the physical as well as industrious, because they are physically well built overall. As regards the energy part, will have his kind of energy to others as if they were mirrors of themselves. Jos Cruz. 70. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Financial Part. The yellow aura is more like a child with regard to money. Do not like to feel the weight of responsibility to manage its monetary part. It's kind of a person they call sheet plate gets warm. Not worrying much about their future. See money as a vehicle that connects you with other people in society. The money is meant for him to have the most exquisite pleasures, like cars, designer clothes, diamonds, etc. Likes to feel money in your pocket that brings you an illusion of well-being. Be in the bar, on the beach, being with friends, walking, in short where there are people who spend their hobby as good bits of life together. Due to a facility that also has scorched the money, it's always hit for a yellow aura. Find a better half who manages the monetary part, as with all applications and payments. It would be very beneficial for a yellow aura mention about these responsibilities, which would help to further develop their consciousness. But that will take into account that when the belt tightens for a very long time, without drawing a target, causes revolts due to lack of positive effort, aborting every effort played so far, letting it all go down the drain. The level he has reached. Jos Cruz. 72. So a weekly review of the strategies or decisions of the financial program is essential for this to be the yellow aura. Financial capacity is one thing. But leadership is one of the notable characteristics of this color is aura rainbow. This ability is manifested when it works together with other people and takes everything as a joke. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Professional Occupations. A yellow auric is any function performs well, enabling him to teach through demonstration by machines rather large, which is one of his great passions, or through professional techniques. It is also well qualified to act as coach, teacher or master of works whatever their areas are. It is also excellent supervisor or manager, because his first action is to establish a good rapport with employees. After conquering them, is able to apply their strength persuasive to get others to work in order to achieve an objective that concerns everyone. He loves working outdoors. Professions such as part of a team that operates on runways, at the same time you are dealing with large machinery, or construction worker, farmer among other occupations. When you can get inside an office, it becomes an excellent travel agent or real estate agent and other performances because it offers customers the product as if to be. This is a yellow aura is also a major tourist guide. If customers keep up with him, he will provide them with unforgettable moments forever. Because he loves to travel and do not see this performance as a job, so it enjoys the most of the other, leading to an even unconsciously. Jos Cruz. 74. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Spirituality. This spirituality is understood in terms of God, a supreme being who created the universe full of wonders. For him, spirituality is not secular or mental. It's something you believe there is, although not a person dedicated to religion. He believes in facts that relate to previous incarnations, such as having the feeling of already having stayed in some places completely unknown to him, his experience in this, or find someone who has never seen before and have the feeling of knowing him in another life before. This happens because of your auric field that identifies that other color aurica that after they are in shock vibration, and thus awakens the memory of the soul, which in turn discharges to be in that sense. Only to be a yellow is still difficult to believe what he feels for this part. Describe any spiritual experience in terms of physical sensation. Serenity does not appeal to. Do you feel more at ease in situations where you can express yourself spontaneously and naturally? They need to fidget, squirm and jump from sheer physical joy with your spiritual experiences. It is simply the energy that is retained in it, which makes it vibrate so that it still does not understand why this happens to you. Jos Cruz. 76. He feels his spirituality with his childlike innocence, which still is at its deepest intimate, in an unconscious fashion. For those interested in going further, all this is well explained. The reunion of light. This is a yellow aura sees God in butterflies, in the rainbow. Even as an adult, it welcomes the sunrise with reckless abandon, feeling happy with the odds that you can bring a new sunrise for the day. This is a yellow aura feels amazed at the full, perfect and physical cosmos. When it falls on you and sees the world through the child, which exists within it, is that makes you feel part of a name to the whole universe. It is from here that he believes there is something that commands everything. I add nothing more than cosmic light. The Book of Auras. Green aura. Jos Cruz. 78. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 Productivity. The person in possession of aura green color is very intensive, possessing the ability to minimize a concept only when needed and analyzing the entire contents. This is one of the qualities of being. It measures your overall value for its productive capacity, developing the mental part of innovative and practical situations, making use of their creative intuition and organize it to the smallest detail. One of his biggest fears is that it invents, does not have a good quality of acceptance by others. This is often triggered when your self-confidence goes down a bit. How is a living being rather in the mind, lives seeking perfection? That often leads to tensions when they cannot earn the respect and love interacting with people. The conclusion that one day will have to come through your intuition, is that life can be lived in a manner contrary to that which he lives. That is no longer wish to be perfect in what he creates, because perfection is required by the mind and nothing more. You will slowly develop techniques for slowing down. Jos Cruz. 80. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2 The Mental Part. The green auric is very lives in the mind. For anything and everything you think, not paying enough attention to what deserves to be rated or not, taking everything and everyone in the same table. View assimilating information and think that mind you will create, and accumulating in it for some time, grinding up inside many times do not put into practice, also in good part because of their fragile self-esteem. In short, and prefers to think about finding a solution to the problem frank, than roll up their sleeves to solve the same. Usually think in a very analytical, and when faced with situations that require physical application, prefer to pay others to do the work. The relationship that has a green aura with the world of real things, it's like a mechanical presence that must be done. Due to be very focused in mind and call you more than you should, you see a large part of most situations as problems to be solved, even when it is preparing a party or organizing such a change. He prefers to keep a certain distance, telling others where to put things or indicate the site be placed on the table, and to the center of flowers, applying her aesthetic sense, even when you have to roll up their sleeves to do the job, but do so without being mired in the same. Jos Cruz. 82. As for this being the physical part, seems to have a commitment to yourself. It is a reality that he knows exists but does not really care, because it feels more attracted to the effort not for the mind and physical effort, preferring the more intellectual part. Due to his mind so agitated, this being green when confronted with a situation goes directly to the results and solutions, while other beings with other colors of aura, are happy in the process of evolution. Whatever be an aura green is like buying something about art that both the captive and even when buying clothes does more for high balances, or who purchases a year to use the other. Feels that suits him as well as its effectiveness. This type does not like to be very heavy physical work, which makes his more with regard to the mental. For example, spends long hours with ideas, plans and projects. Prefer to work more in order to pay others to take care of their homes, cars, preferring to eat out often, do not have someone who cooks for him to enjoy a good meal. Elongation. Do you think these tasks somewhat monotonous? The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 Rationalism. The aura green person is intelligent, insightful, rational, and logical, but needs to be productive to feel at peace with you. See life as if it were a huge list of jobs that will erase the extent that it is doing, giving you a great satisfaction. It is this satisfaction that you feel enhances your self-confidence, generating you a great pleasure to have been able to accomplish everything he set himself. It is a naturally clever, likes to categorize things in your mind. This activity is renewed, giving you a sense of well-being of him and the world. Only one problem that can arise, because it considers that all occupations should have a productive purpose. This being sees life as something complicated, but the look pleases resolutions for more complicated situations. In the conversations that normally leave the medium as well as unfinished ideas, relationships, unfinished, do not leave much on the mind at ease. That's why they insist on being so professionally applied to try to escape him. For decisions to be quite close due to their lack of self-confidence is practical enough to reject options that require a lot of work, and do not produce the expected result. Jos Cruz. 84. On the other hand, oddly enough, the aura green is not monitor things like the small details. Prefer to stay only for necessary. But has the ability to discern patterns of behavior with a single glance, based on very little information, because of its strong intuition. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 Creativity. Finding creative solutions to problems is the main way to feel free to this individual aura green. Only he is long standing by their need to produce, and neglect their potential as creative imaginative. Considers creativity and even the art, for which he has so much talent, a way to pass time or have fun, without applying too deeply. The challenge for him is to find a balance point between your practical production sides, and facing the results of the creative and intuitive nature. This being the aura green, when you feel afraid get out of control, it becomes somewhat compulsive, having a great tendency to control situations in a very rigid. These forms do not spend more of their self-defense developed in order to restore sanity, and is a means to understand a situation derived. This being the aura green needs to feel connected to someone you feel mental affinity. Relate to a person whose intellect is similar to yours, is clearly beneficial to the often help to understand himself. It should be noted that a green aura, even though I live quite the mental aspect, it is still very connected to what is religious and spiritual, having a precious precept to be serious without taking itself too seriously with regard to your personality. Jos Cruz. 86. This being green is a true lover, sexual, sensual and a very fun way, and it is during this part erotic, that is felt so relaxed, releasing its full potential deep, without realizing that the child living at its re can be. How do these feelings come back and feel your inner intensity? He is dedicated to your body and soulmate, love him intensely. This is your anchor. It can often seem immersed in his thoughts, but it is still loyal and always maintaining a certain independence from the rest. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Sexuality. Due to the great interest of the aura green mainly for ideas, you feel sexually attracted to those who give the real value to your intelligence or conversation, when you have the sensitivity to feel at ease, and not just be as a sex symbol, you can open yourself physically and mentally to his pair. But on the other side has the ability to break a deep relationship, just engaging in the sexual part where he get the most benefit to evolve in spiritual terms, often unconsciously. But later with the maturity that life will bring, will have the need to rescue these feelings to his heart. For a decent spiritual evolution, one condition requires that this be to compromises that the person is creative, intelligent, honest, responsible and loving. Jos Cruz. 88. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Parents and Children. In biological terms, is a being that does not bother much in terms of having children if they get to have some within a marriage that a rule will be delayed. It is not by nature a person with parental instincts motherly, but often adapts to the company, which as we know more divorces happen every time. And this is not bothering to help create the children of others, maintaining a stable home. When you become a parent, is a very organized person, which seeks to provide child or dependent on him every opportunity to develop their talents. For this to be so, green has to work harder than it should to be able to pay extra studies or more different sports, so that in future their descendants could reach a certain level and determined professional and social life. Creating a sure and certain pride and comfort inside. The children are well socially. Jos Cruz. 90. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Social Terms. Socially is a great observer and gentle. Often it is a party, hopeful that someone will take the initiative to come to him, being very reserved and keeping his distance. While if so in the mind has a tendency to isolate themselves and then to feel in solitude. About the close relationships he has with his friends, is very careful thinking about it too much. Why not take your trust in any way? First sit down and then analyzes the pros and cons of such a friendship, and only then decide if this person is worthy of their trust, but will not give it back to that person. By all means try to attain this end. Jos Cruz. 92. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Personality. A personal relationship with aura to be a green can be a real challenge. Because it is so mentally agile, always has an answer on the tip of the tongue to all who ask. Except that often because it does not to feel a good connection between the mental parts, intuitive, hence not having much self-confidence in him, when this is not responding to the green aura, is to grind up for a long time for not responding immediately. When are things that touch your intimate or personality is angry with others, waiting to take a new opportunity to take the time to say what could not say before. Needed some time to mature and gain the courage to do so. Of course, then you feel lighter and justified to him. It may be said to be like this lives on in mind, has no patience to wait for others to understand a complex idea. Then take action to apply the reasoning to come. Jos Cruz. 94. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Leadership. A green auric is like to lead by distributing ideas and information. He needs a lot of autonomy and personal space. For more distant and self-confident that he seems, emerges when there is recognition of what he does. One of its satisfactions come from having good ideas, and wanting to be recognized as the same original source. Leads showing a willingness to develop their ideas to the end, instead of feeling emotional fervor of the moment. It is wise when negotiating, and observant when interacting with others, is well articulated and given their ideas. Would you rather have power where their ideas can be implemented quickly, to feel more authoritative? He likes to engage in such areas as marketing, public relations, advertising and finance. Due to its strong analytical skills may also evolve in the therapy. Jos Cruz. 96. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Finance. Due to the person of the aura green can be quite creative and productive, it just takes into account their finances, and earns money very easily. Understand the situations that lead to money due to her intuition. Consider finance as a challenge, in which this being is an excellent player, but as soon as gets lost large sums. But apart from that, like to have your own nest egg for when it needs to be at hand. Security is your main material. Usually have professions where ideas and money to remain united, real estate investment activities, but also has a vein of writer or translator. But how great a lover of art can also succeed as an artist, if you have a good self-confidence. This being the aura green does not like to feel limited in terms of its power to make money. Search for standard business applications. You hate very advantageous opportunities for profits. As field sales, cars, jewels, boats, preferably anything that is expensive and quickly sells it to feel the cash in hand, without losing his head. It is quite talented in this regard. But as you earn money to spend also knows, is one that feels right to assist him. This cannot be said that it is extravagant, but like all the finest amenities and luxuries that money can buy. Personally likes to present him well, beauty is in clothing or jewelry, but never anything in exaggeration. Intuitively know what you like and enjoy. Jos Cruz. 98. Regarding your expenses, like to keep your bills on time, never late with this, so come are immediately paid. To control the remaining money you have left, is honored in this respect, both for those who paid as for yourself. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Religion and Inter-Help. When it comes to religion, this is aura green, likes to be inserted in it, because living in mind, often too tired to face the world. Taking refuge in any religion, since this will bring peace and much needed rest for your sanity in their day-to-day. Whether at home or in a holy place, the aim of seeking God as something that exists but does not fully understand. Because these are things pertaining to the sacred and the mind is a mechanism cannot have such a feeling, looking for something with the name of God, only that this is something that feels within him that cannot admit to him due to the mind. And often if you do not have someone to encourage and explain who God is, in fact this can be a lifetime passes to follow a secular religion without knowing why. Our auric green, when he begins to learn to free themselves from the cobwebs of the mind, he discovers that there is something that gives you more overall well-being than making money through the mental capacity. These feelings start when he begins to turn to the inside, and finds that helping others unconditionally, make you feel a completely different person. More tender, loving and humble love for those in need. While a person is fairly intuitive, and intelligent analyst, begins to feel that they have that special touch that makes others feel good, when it comes to therapy. Die and be a good career in this field. Jos Cruz. 100. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Spirituality. For a person auric green, the spirituality is nothing more than an idea. How can one be more mental than spiritual? as his mind is turned to learning and can study its precepts as other things, mathematics or history for example. She only sees spirituality as a matter which is to learn and nothing more. Streamlining will be able to reach a conclusion spiritual, which can never happen. The supreme power, to be in Aura Green, is the intelligence that lies behind the creation of this reality. For him, his spiritual quest is a form of God. Considers that the work to discover who God is through seems so and so difficult to achieve, as a challenge to understand their self-esteem. So from here the mind begins to unravel, beginning to emerge from their spiritual side. This is how we take this to be the Aura Green. Go will be the mental part with the intuition that leads to a higher level of wisdom. To be a Auric Green spirituality is also the resourcefulness it takes to reach the end of the demand, so you can believe in all, and feeling is an integral part of the universe. Jos Cruz. 102. The Book of Auras. Blue. Aura. Jos Cruz. 104. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 Mediumship. The person, who holds a blue aura, is someone a lot of sense for the practice and developed mediumship. Whether or not to practice, as a rule all people with this spiritual gift, and making use of it without exception is blue aura, although there are other people in the universe with other colors of different auras, which serve to know and apply the same way as a medium of aura blue. The beings that have the color blue aurica, due to narrowing and relationship they have with the psychic part, as is well known that this part is on the moon as already described in Reunion of Light. What this means is through negative, more subtle than this kind of information is familiar spirit. That is why many people with other auric colors, unable to make these contacts, often resort to these mediums. Jos Cruz. 106. The Book of Auras. Chapter to Love. Because of these beings are more linked to the blue moon part, influenced by representing the same blue, which is known as a color that is associated with homosexuality and bisexuality. They tend to be more feminine than other people with auras of different colors. But watch out, therefore some beings with this blue color have a tendency to turn over these types of relationships, knowing there are others that balance the feminine energy, or negative in it. And feels quite man or woman, coming in many cases the father or child. As you know, the color blue is representative of love and that flows from it. The attention for those who loves and cherishes, accompanied by a constant concern in helping others, is a feeling that often manages to overflow out of you. This is Aura Blue, who always wants the best for others. Delivery is always to the cause as best he knows and feels. Intuitively always adding something to what he does himself. Jos Cruz. 108. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 Bondage of Being. This aura is blue-like and feels good serving others, sometimes within the family or to the community to which it belongs. Giving real value to the services it provides, discovering the true meaning of life through this way. When you feel like you're used to donate a part of yourself to others. Is aware of what is required in advance of what others need, without authoritarianism on his part. This person or a blue feels more valued and worthy of him, to commit an act of charity to someone, thus discovering the most varied sensations to live, feeling accomplished with these actions, which has the merit of creating for himself without recourse to anyone, keeping your dignity. One of his biggest challenges in the account of his life is to rediscover what it needs to achieve a state of happiness. This constant search is because in their eagerness to want to serve others full time, forgets him, both in the material part, mental and spiritual. Jos Cruz. 110. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 Learning to Say No. This being auric blue, as it has dedicated more to others than him, it has a morbid tendency to discharge energy very easily. And so the unraveling personal power you have. It is from here that he has to relearn how to say no. To return to the full command of him, through his powerful intuition, whether energetically self-renew and maintain this stabilized energy into it. 1 Blue has a strong tendency to consider a physical reality as something acceptable. So this becomes more turned inward than outward. Turning to the mind and emotions and feelings that this same do, it is only to develop a task, does not bother much with the physical expended, whether or not stressful. When the knows how to balance the energy required in these applications, which typically do more sweat or feel hot, uncomfortable without knowing why. Jos Cruz. 112. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Sports. All sporting activities that have to do with team spirit have to do with this auric blue, being able to highlight the basketball, soccer, water polo, among others. As tends to seek its balance psychophysical and sometimes spiritual, this is blue attracted to other sports that allow you to be in union with nature. Such as swimming, skydiving, horse riding, dancing, tai chi, yoga or simply a picnic, which cause them to enjoy and feel Mother Nature. When this is blue, does not have the energy stability required for the proper functioning of your physical. Let thus undesirable waste accumulate in the body parts found. This should not be a good pass energy in those areas, which becomes more marked among women who after having children, or when they begin to reach the age of menopause, usually get a little more robust. What many do not understand, and do strange diets come in many cases to compromise your health. These ladies must feel that their beauty is always on the inside. Jos Cruz. 114. With regard to men of blue aura, the main difficulty lies in following what respects society. Being a man physically with all learning disorders often brings you to the company that it is an integral part, because it is in their constitution astral blue and a female being. This may be overcome when he learns to be familiar with and accept yourself as you really are. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 The Gift. Aura blue people feel they have a well-developed intuition, being very sensitive to outside vibrations from other beings of light while still not developed in time or accept your gift. It is complicated to develop this blue aura that feels intuitively. To then take a right position. To the extent that it becomes difficult due to the involvement of mind, that makes you feel unstable in what it creates, emotions, feelings, thoughts etc. Because of this he often feels less capable than people with other colors of aura, when it comes to issues related to mind and derived from it. This happens due to this type of person to be more spiritual than mental. He will have to keep socially acquire skills that will take them to manage what goes first in his heart. After analyzing intuitively feel more at ease, gaining more self-confidence to the outside and the society itself. The aura is blue has all the solutions and alternatives at the same time. It is not surprising that it has difficulty explaining what they know, or even make decisions. This is blue needs to learn to identify and eliminate all the issues, problems and situations that have no immediate effect in the situations concerned. Jos Cruz. 116. While still a child attends school, he was attracted to subjects that have to do with intuition. As reading, essays, art and representation, mathematics or science which requires you to have a mental approach that is just learning the above. But these are matters that help you deal with the reality of the world we live physically. This often knows the answer to a math problem without knowing how he got it. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Business. This being the blue auric racing business is more likely to win when they have a particular component of the service, and allowing it to relate intimately with others. How to live more by intuition tends to take longer to make certain trading decisions, hopes that his spirit will respond, after feeling that it is high time, make the decision without looking back. This needs to be to find ways to deal with business situations, and to enable it to have time enough to work at their own pace, to feel good professionally. He needs all matters concerning the business, are well described in contracts or in some way on paper. That he may have the opportunity to separate the mental from the material, thus creating an operative solution. When there are setbacks in business as he takes a personal matter. thus gaining an immense inner strength which leads him to recognize what you feel and where it comes from. That enables you to learn more and continue forward, allowing it to act successfully as regards the power of negotiation. And when it takes a commitment is reliable. Jos Cruz. 118. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8. The Emotional Side. The ability to act starting from emotions. This is a quality that has to be blue, but can also be its biggest flaw. He wants to love and care for others, thinks it should be seen as a loving person, kind and necessary in any situation. The defect appears when emotional confusion blurred the facts of a situation, preventing him from making the best decision. It is unable to discern with fairness and objectivity when it is surrounded by intense emotional relationship or fellow professional members, who use a more rational approach, often ask about the data it has to support your opinion. But as regards the social areas in which your gift is needed, as well as for the maintenance of family welfare and community, it is very valuable and indispensable. This is Aura Blue loves people and interact with them. Serving others is a task for excellence in your life. Your well-being is constituted to meet the needs of those he loves. Feeling the same way and demanding to be loved and served in return. Concerning the constraint of love from others he dismisses from practical action or advice. One danger for him is that his friends and family start to think he does more than his duty, and you can count on it any time. Jos Cruz. 120. And in fact may even, with his willingness to help others, he makes use, failing to ask for anything in return, thinking that others are as sensitive as he. This means it has the feeling that their efforts are not recognized. To reverse this situation, he must be more determined. You must learn to be limited in how it serves. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9. Good layout. To feed your personality, this needs to be blue writing, reading, listening to music, take notes of what he did, spending time outdoors, being with friends and be heard, are activities that help to sort out the confusion of their feelings. The blue aura expresses their emotions through laughter and tears, the ease and speed of the world. It is when something or someone touches your intimate. He feels the need to spontaneously release a restrained emotion, not to spill it. It can cause physical disorders, such as the famous headache etc. This is due to keep negative emotions trapped within him, thus preventing a good energy circulation in those areas of the head. Being in the company of loved ones, or join with your partner, sit through shared emotion, expressing itself through joy and happiness with tears. This auric blue also cries when angry. Contrary to what some people say, this function is only in the revolt that he feels in his heart for not having a correct posture before a situation involving the sentimental part, when it comes to sentimentality, often putting the needs of others ahead of her. When properly appreciated and recognized for this contribution, feels at peace with itself and in union with the universe. Jos Cruz. 122. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10. Finance. As the financial issues are essentially accounting processes, this is blue aura emotions find it hard to connect with finances. He feels that money is something stupid, and do not like to discuss these issues. In business, one of the most painful, for he is talking about money. People and personal relationships are much more important in view of blue aura, money is secondary. So they need to make arrangements ahead of time and money contracts in order to be free to interact emotionally, which is what we do best. It is usually an excellent administrator of other people's money. It takes the responsibility seriously, it is prudent and reliable. In marriage and in business, see the money as if it was someone else. It is quite careful when applying your finances, do not like to take big risks. But when you feel the need to buy something that may not have the possibility to purchase it, reorganizing their finances in order to save enough for what you have to buy. Often saving or avoiding certain expenses that were crucial to before, you can skip to the spending side. Jos Cruz. 124. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11. The Professional Part. This Blue Auric is so fond of listening to others complain that often becomes a counselor or therapist without getting anything in return. Because he feels that this is your calling, to assist those in need. He is always willing to listen to others, finding it very hard not to get involved. But get frustrated when the person takes precautions that advised him that due to having no malice when he discovers that it was only used by someone without scruples, just as a listener. If the person feels disgusted putting aside, as well as help the situation on your part aside, forgetting her completely. With regard to work outside the home, he sees it as a secondary source of income, not a reward for their creative efforts. Because of this, often involves more jobs than in careers in general public office, or as a secretary, nurse or the teacher the others. The person or a blue is starting to feel the economic influence of women, and wanting to be part of this dynamism. It can be excellent in the accounting area, or as representative of goods and services to society. Blue, this guy does not tend to do well in any profession or occupation requiring hide the feeling side, as among other psychotherapeutic medicine. Jos Cruz. 126. When he decides to become an entrepreneur, you must have a partner or partners to support him, and be receptive to dealing with the legalities and formalities for the financial company. It has a heart as big to help others that even can lead to forgetting to charge what they did professionally. It is for these reasons that one is good to have a partner to deal with this kind of issues. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12. God and Spirituality. With regard to spirituality, that is one of the driving forces of any blue aura. It is through this way he seeks a deeper relationship with God. For him, God in heaven is not someone who makes bad weather or good weather, for the mere mortals who inhabit the planet, but a supreme power that binds the whole, feeling as a setting for his experience. The depth of its spirituality and her love to God is not something he can easily chat with friends and family, for what attracts him to God are not easy to translate. It is a feeling of love so profound that it leaves you in tears and speechless, with wonderment and awe. This is Blue has a strong perception about the Godhead. For this to be feeling and being in union with God is something very real, since it is through the most varied sensations, sometimes physical or spiritual. As children, many of them blue aura, have transcendent experiences with the divine. That's why we know him as the God of love. Many of them do not feel that their experiences have some spiritual value and meaning when they are not assisted by someone competent. So spend a large part of his life looking for, in any religion, a way to believe and have faith enough to reinforce what they already know about their other experiences. When you know. Jos Cruz. 128. This is a blue auric faith and boundless confidence in all that is divine. For very negative things are still able to feel the sensation through his intuition that everything will recover to positive. These people feel blue performed spiritually by the act of serving. Just like Jesus or Buddha, as he did among other beings of light eternal, because for him to serve the one you love is serving God. When you donate to others, feel that giving back is part of a receiving of God. This light should be developed to the utmost all the spirituality you feel, through a constant practice to evolve the most of your psychic abilities. Exclusively to assist those in need, this or other previous experience. After all, this is his mission as the Spirit of Light. The Book of Auras. Red. Aura. Jos Cruz. 130. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1. Being in the World. Beings with the color red spectrum are very expressive when it comes to your part of physical and sexual. These people tend to act only in accordance with what the environment around them. Red. These beings do not think logically, to a certain thing they understand is reasonably difficult. They feel safe and comfortable in the world of elemental nature, live life with gusto and courage. One of the most possessors of this very strong red aura is its ability to remain in the world, aspects of dealing with the reality of everyday life with security and confidence. These beings have the greatest respect and sensitivity for the power of Mother Nature. They seem to feel a mission in the connection between humanity and the physical reality, whether in the middle of a storm or in the middle of an ocean trying to save people, or just living your own life. That is how they like to be part of the universe. They identify themselves with the world, interacting with the physical environment. Understand who they are, changing things, heavy sight, applying the physical strength and agility. They love to challenge what is material to your own physique. Jos Cruz. 132. These beings read with this personality type feel vivacity, and good about themselves. As regards the realities, can only believe, after seeing, hearing, smell, taste of things to take, or by touch. It is believed that after the physical reality, they like to dominate the environment. For them the reality is a physical challenge, a challenge they must face the greatest enjoyment. Dealing with objects gives these beings Reds a certain discretion to define things. The Book of Auras. Chapter to the Physical Challenge. This is no respecter of Red Auric apply in tasks that require more physical effort than mental. But by the society he belongs, and due to the social development that she behaves, it is increasingly clear the use of machines to occupy the place of humans, which came to pass that after the Industrial Revolution, giving rise to this to be a second line of application of their own gifts, going to be their contribution to the society less recognized and often go unnoticed, accepted with joy to the physical work required for even small events. When it comes time to assemble and disassemble something, they are always willing to help. These beings are intelligent and able to contribute good ideas, but it must have physical evidence. Although these ideas seem to them hazy and unsubstantiated, their goals of living is giving color to ideas and desires of others. These beings understand that the human body is just a structure that holds all other parts of the human being, unable to come to distance themselves from their private parts. Give us humans become more individualistic in the world. When they make a mental decision about something or someone, remain intransigent to the end. Jos Cruz. 134. There are people who listen to others except those of his own instincts. See what the weather should make sense, come from the immediate danger involved and the situations that lead to the same. These beings are very cautious Red Aura and possessing a cunning animal in the struggle for survival outside of the ordinary. Based on this principle, is greatly appreciated, as rescuers, rescue teams, firefighters, etc. They feel they can control the physical elements, coming to save human lives as well as others in the midst of danger safely. That is why they are the best experts in the areas of accident prevention. Instinctively know what precautions they should take, the resources to help people survive in various facets, in storms, floods, earthquakes, among other disasters that can happen to the earth. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 Personality. The color red is representative of the personality. Aura red people like to deal with things quite real. They like to feel rooted to the earth. Not being afraid of hard work, being so patient with tasks that require skills of practical application, in respect for nature. Due to the often pressing need for things to happen outside the appropriate time for such, these red beings do not do that well in situations where they are forced to wait for something to happen. Prefer to maintain a defensive posture to an offensive. Die often choose occupations that allow them to have some control over the time, resources and energies. It is quite common look for jobs more liberal, not to require an employer who receive them. When repairs are busy having their own business, can always have more work than they can play in a day, for never need to wait for more work, because it gives them a sense of freedom and personal independence. When students have a preference for school subjects, the practical application of theoretical courses. Enjoying more of what relates to materials from wood, to criticize the arts. They are curious and inquiring. But they tend to either plants or animals, enjoy doing the most varied experiences later, graft trees or their derivatives, as well as change mating of animals to establish a purer race. After all, this Red is very representative of the nature ground. Jos Cruz. 136. They need to know why and how it works, and what is the purpose of their existence. They do not have much patience with cause and effect in the long term, so is that we can find more in occupations that meet needs more physical than mental, so they can become farmers, shoemakers, carpenters, drivers or distribution. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 Mentality. In the mind as an idea in the air is useless, so quick to make one as soon as possible with a good solid base. For these beings Reds, an idea only has value when the actual move from theory to practice. Are emotionally open and honest in expressing their emotions, express them without malice or intent to manipulate. They are also very confident, hopeful and fearless in any situation. Often when you depend on someone to do some work, wait and wait, without questioning why it takes so long. These beings, when they undertake something, continue to the end, even if they see that is already beginning to be wrong, to maintain its firm position, not demoted in any way. There are people to give the plunge. Due to very strong pride that dwells in them, only after feeling very frustrated, disappointed and sad without someone to support, is that after a long period of suffering, they start to give, to fess up. Such beings are this red or a color spectrum of the Great Master. But however, as soon as they recover from disappointment and have lost the battle, will come back and recharge helpful new attitude to another cyclically returned to the same situation or worse. This is because too much rely on your physical strength or your wallet. They can deal with situations arising from the operation of the minds of others by being closely linked to physical reality. This behavior should not be confused with naivete. They are practical, strong, confident and strong. These beings have good personal qualities such as courage, honesty and trust. Jos Cruz. 138. Because of its strength in the face of defeat, are able to keep hope alive in the minds of others. What a way to give you value, as both are honest with themselves and others, face obstacles head on, with the intention of turning defeat into victory, but no longer around to give. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Anger and Rage. The biggest problem people face for Red Auras has to do with their attitudes, very explosive. When they feel a negativity that goes against what they think, and not giving output to be most appropriate term if iris, and then do not resolve the issue quickly, and get angry. For times like these do not already have awareness on the successful. Tend to spill it into ways. The first is that this is Red looking through sex intense, often unconscious, that leads them to harm their sexual partners so brutal when they do not want such an act. The other way is to download the anger is from everything that appears in front. This costs a lot to be angry, but when that happens, often express their anger immediately. If the possessor of the firearm will immediately seek to resolve the situation to your beautiful way. However, after release, that anger does not hold a grudge against someone. However, when experiencing strong emotions such as Red, to be mentally healthy before the society is seen as a respected and responsible person, when it reaches a certain level of consciousness, trying to find more appropriate ways to vent their anger and rage. If you let them take care of yourself, he can reach in need of intervention by an expert in the psychic area. Jos Cruz. 140. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Social Part. This being Aura Red loves people and needs of other people interacting in their life. However, experience teaches him to act with some caution. Although you need the company of friends and loved ones, it shows quite sensitive to the suffering that goes on in your mind. To the extent, because it has no rational words or concepts to express what you will in the soul. When I is hurt in your mind, resembles an animal that shows their suffering through physical movements. So when dealing with traumatic situations such as abandonment, betrayal or rejection, can break all the dishes, or hit up the walls, or simply turn their backs to the situation and leave the house to relax. until you spend fussing. This becomes to be very strange about your mindset, because if you could give to others all that is bad for you, including pain and frustration to others would. But when they do not, can even become violent, at certain times to the point of assaulting physically to relieve emotional suffering itself. I know that even animals without biting lemons like to relieve this tension. Jos Cruz. 142. You see that inside there is this potential for physical violence, is very difficult to open, to trust others and to express that experience, you feel physically and mentally. As the cover tends to remain inaccessible in the innermost part, this gap when not understood by friends and partners, it becomes very difficult to deal with this type of person. Red. About the social level, the red auric prefer to stay aside at parties and meetings, never part of the group, participating only when it feels uncomfortable or is offered a place of prominence. Being quite difficult for others who interact with him, understand their physical manner combined with his mental reservation. But this is how it can be to balance your physical and mental needs, often without knowing how and why such. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Sexuality. For most people who have auras of other colors in the spectrum of personality, sexuality is, above all, an emotional experience, but for this to be a red aura, sexuality is life itself inserted herself. He can only express their emotions through the flesh. It has a craving for life, living with pleasure, and dragging all that life has to offer. When he walks balanced is sensual, engaging in experiences and sensations, delighting the most from such situations. Because he's very physical, has difficulty understanding the moral constraints that society places for sexual behavior. For him, sex pleasure, game and delicious bodily sensations, he exploits them as much as he can. The sexual need is not always linked to love, devotion, or tenderness. For him, sex mostly just sees it as physical, like a piece of meat must be eaten and nothing more. His animalistic instincts or the desire not interpret life or sex as something unnatural. At the moment of orgasm, corresponds to a spiritual experience in some other beings with auric colors. But to be with a red aura only knows, if anything, a shiver of pleasure and joy caused by the magnificence of sexual stimulation, which allows the lifting of the divine spirit will condition and unity with the universe. Jos Cruz. 144. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Dealing with Earth. This being red auric feels connected to the earth and everything it can offer for your well-being in life. For this attraction that it often becomes a hunter, has an appetite for this special breeding that help to complement this task. Or simply getting as animal breeder for business, keeping track of changes in it, breed these animals for future developments, like tapping into that. With regard to tilling the soil when it is a farmer, he also feels a certain attraction to develop experience with trees, plants, and also experimenting with a variety of excerpts, to try to reach an understanding with what the land can change these species or castes. This is one of the ways makes you feel united and conducted with the whole, after their experiences give good results. What usually happens due to its red color corresponding to the creative power in this area, which is connected to the spectrum in the universe. Jos Cruz. 146. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Possessions. As this is a red is to be more grounded, it is not surprising that it or everything that exists at its top. As such, all he can do it quite naturally. Give yourself, be taken to bear with everything he sees, and can acquire one way or another to add to his already vast collection, so that these beings tend to make life long. In most of the time it needs neither of these things, but thinks that a day will come to need both for himself and for others, often getting into darker and complex business, in their eagerness to want to acquire more and more. And that is often mocked by other individuals with various other colors of auras, or more advanced. This being red, for being so conservative about something, all emails, tends to keep everything that is material, gaining a morbid love for things. Hence it is very difficult if not impossible to get rid of something that even until now is broken. In his eagerness to keep everything you own, becomes greedy. At the point of forgetting that one day when you have to die physically cannot take anything with him what is material. Jos Cruz. 148. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Family Ties. This being Auric regarding family life, because to be quite unstable due to his mental personality. The same feel uncomfortable to talk and develop more issues related to family closeness. Therefore he simply ignores. Thinking only and only in your nose, so come often to destabilize understanding family. Family members or close friends are often touched by this insensitivity on the part of this being Auricred, often leading to revolt to him and leaving behind family and emotional ties, all lying on the ground. Faced with such abandonment, he later 7 angry with himself, not knowing why those relationships were dashed, going to feel anger at everything and everyone as if they were the cause and culprits of such situations. And its lack of basic reasoning and consciousness to assimilate what has happened, often dragging on for long periods of time. Jos Cruz. 150. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Friends. When it comes to friendships, that being that is very communicative, get them with ease. Be with those who have more or less its color aurica with ease, feel like a fish in water, so to speak. How is a person very uninhibited and playful in some respects? He loves this kind of fellowship with friends. Now in Briggs Lunch, which has a large discretion to make or coordinate and send your beautiful way. He prefers this kind always more living in your home, this place that feels comfortable and supported by his family, plus in this case to serve, if only to put things right, or the kitchen when it serves, let it always be a complete chaos. It is then that due to these friendly, so if he emphasizes more than often coming to tell their adventures lived, or showing its interconnection intimate feel for objects acquired in their collections that exists. That before were not worth anything, but after you've purchased start to be invaluable. Jos Cruz. 152. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Heart of Butter. This being the color of red aura, the need that has to be involved in a systematic way with people, as a rule never denies nothing to those who ask him. His borrowed money, things or personal support for anything is always ready. Except that this provision does not serve to basically part of the heart, but part of its existing self-serving, for later come to ask for something in exchange and interest advantaged indirect. That is why it often takes large caps on the part of others. When this happens and it is seen or felt by business partners or relatives with whom they relate, they feel disgusted by the way and ease that this is read, who never learned not to let curl. This kind of being who just likes to do what he wants and feels good, clings to many people, especially the opposite sex, giving full attention, the small talk and marmosets of various natures, sometimes to know the lives of others, or that the person waiting to offer you something. Jos Cruz. 154. If they do understand it, or many it is felt and seen as a certain street lamp, which shines only to those who are or you are interested. When this happens and the more direct witness or family come to find out the doors and bars, so to speak, of course, feel disgusted and unworthy of belonging in terms familiar to such person. That does not give them the real value they deserve and should respect that. Only these understand closest relatives as something acquired, and having the obligation to bear all that it is read to. In short, the holder of a red aura, and liked, giving more value and helping in a more rational understanding, people who you are but not in family or intimate, than his own family. The Book of Auras. Golden Aura. Jos Cruz. 156. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 The Mind. Being owner of golden aura, understand the success and happiness through intuition. To this needs to be cold and logical, to begin this journey taking a wide variety of risks, to understand the part of metaphysics. part of this journey into the unknown, involves a great way to feel secure physically and mentally to him. To do so he must have more confidence in their intuitive part. This is Golden needs to recognize that their feelings are part of mental evolution that will lead to insight. For this all you have to consciously begin to understand their mindset and what flows from it. This is Golden needs to relearn how to express their innermost feelings with authenticity, not rationalize them. And as he would resign to them, will lose the need for control. He begins to understand that, start to have faith in what he believed not before, and that there is no waste. The Golden Auric applies to your mind first, to deal with reality, instead of relying on their bodily sensations or other physical evidence. Jos Cruz. 158. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2. Being the Life. This human being has a tendency to see things at first only as an idea, while I understand and appreciate the nature of things. How is a living being in mind and what it produces? The thought, for example, that leads him to think of everything before something abstract, it has produced. Then apply for thought in progress, and only later did apply what was formerly thought of anything in nature. See all aspects of daily life as a complex whole, waiting to be dismantled into their constituent elements. Lunch, for example, is not just a meal, but a perfect combination of specific foods that are immutable, and the habit of having lunch, in this case, must match the thought that has in mind. How has a strong tendency to spend much time thinking. This Golden Auric not particularly interested in the physical reality. This love knows how and why a certain thing works, and his endless patience to disassemble and reassemble any object. It is quite interesting in relation to the actual operating mechanisms. You acknowledge and understand the need for a wide variety of products, goods and services. Just cannot understand why such a variety. Jos Cruz. 160. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3. Comparisons. For this to be the color of golden aura, a car is necessarily equal to one, or a watch is as good as any other. Often has the audacity to ask, why do I need two coats or whatever, if I can only use one at a time? In general, one is to be systematic, adapted and conventional. This is kind of golden. Just do not take action when these new ideas are realized in mechanical devices such as computers, tools, photographic equipment or appliances. He likes to keep updated about the latest models of any one of these devices. To him the engineering concepts inherent in every invention are wonders to be addressed and used. It is normal for this to have multiple computer systems, each one more advanced than the other, with capacity to function better and faster, and perform more work or come to support more programs. At the same time, curiously, has the most reluctant to get rid of older systems, because over time, because you have familiarized yourself with them, takes into account as old friends. Jos Cruz. 162. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4. Database. The golden color is the color representing the spectrum, as the dominant mind. That is why he feels a great pleasure when applying your mental power, the act of creating or connecting with others intellectually. He loves to think, play with ideas, inventing systems. When you can learn things naturally mentally, and can manipulate the environment through their own thoughts, you feel happiness. This golden is born before the start was computed. It was he who performed the task of saving the data of the companies, due to its strong mental power to archive everything and anything. Like to see the world and analyze it through your mind, and then to process the information until each piece of this puzzle fit perfectly social, without leave or missing something. One of its gems is the ability of logical reasoning, to calculate things not as someone who solves problems, but as an analyst giving exact things, not taking it seriously and even amused. Being this way has a mental process and orderly sequence. Like processes such as a great divide, which has a regular configuration, he likes to note down all your mental work, making sure that all parts of the first phase were completed before moving on to the second. Want to make sure that every part of the problem or challenge is correct before proceeding to the following. Jos Cruz. 164. Although this is auric gold is very methodical and meticulous, it takes you to pay close attention to detail. Because such a way to see what goes on in his mind, he often makes decisions harder, regardless of the thoughts or feelings of others. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Success. This is Gold presents the positions and professions that require a kind of meticulousness and take a tougher view. Sometimes problems arise when you have to go beyond their basic knowledge to make an analytical assumption, can be fooled by the way to validate this analysis, through numerous additional data or theoretical ideas that actually do not validate anything. Often to avoid a review by his intuition, he jumps into a pattern, thinking he was better known and safe, trying to solve the same problem several times, trying to convince himself that it actually is not assimilating a new situation. You need to make a great mental effort to go beyond this possibility to come to know in order to try something different for which there is neither proof nor a guarantee of success. This is the way it needs to embody within himself, when he admits that tries to need to take risks, after addressing the risks and gain the trust properly. This is the golden be more results to risk in any decision that may be required. Jos Cruz. 166. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Relations. This being the golden aura develops through their thoughts and emotions. Want to know and understand the feelings logically. Do not feel comfortable with anything that does not understand and cannot control. Want to reduce all situations of life, including interpersonal relationships, the mathematical results that must be solved by analysis, and the depersonalization of human emotion, likes to organize their thoughts closely, own and others. How do you want to let go of the emotional process and pretend that you are undoing the logical thought process? This being auric gold often feels like frigidity and dispassionate. When you do not know what to do with their own emotions, also tends to ignore the other, pretending that feelings do not exist. For him to consider attitudes, beliefs and values of others, is something that can disrupt your mental and logical process. However, the feelings and emotions when they are not neat or organized make this be unpredictable, which cannot understand him, often sorrow. Jos Cruz. 168. So he expressed through anger, and anger manifested in very dramatic and surprising behaviors such as kicking the chairs, or hit violently with a door between outbursts of temper. Others simply keep the mood inside, feeling depressed, retreating emotionally to your family and friends, put up or doing incommunicado tantrums when as they did as children. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Dependencies. When this is gold and feel angry, you can try to protect and try to escape from him, through excessive intake of alcohol or tobacco, which can become harder drugs. Come to bring you the most diverse pathologies later in the concept of health. So your challenge is to learn to deal with your moods, and resentments, and express them regularly to encourage communication and understanding. Need to recognize the time to admit the emotions rather than make decisions. The best way to do this, you begin to separate all things logically, and make a provisional decision. Then consider what should feel, as well as the feelings of others, as a gauge to reach a final conclusion. Once you learn to trust yourself ready for the journey into the unknown. And that is how this is auric color golden, who begins to feel his being in reality, this being able to evolve in its essence, can only do by intuition. This requires that you learn to have confidence in himself, and inner power, the other going to feel like himself. He is afraid to start this journey by thinking about this wrong human evolution. To the extent that will apply to your own intuition, he begins to separate what is and understands how it feels, and that there is something equally or more important than logical reasoning, so he was accustomed to living in your mind. Jos Cruz. 170. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Socially. being Aura Gold embodies the masculine energy of initiative, drive and directive. Thus social situations need to have a purpose or function to it, yet it's difficult to relax and enjoy the moment. This is not to be superficial. Part of it feels have a good time is a waste of time, so participating in professional organizations or service with the aim of viewing social situations with business. In addition, he likes to be linked to groups where the interaction is less intense and intimate. For social life he occupies a much narrower range than for most other people. Prefer quieter moments where you can deepen their literary knowledge or repair anything that you require patience and time, instead of staying in the conversation, unless others share their interests and ideas. Jos Cruz. 172. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Sexuality. This golden aura seems to be keeping a distance from the deep emotional involvement, even in relationships. He indulges in reality, but has great difficulty in expressing themselves about their intimacy, mentally and spiritually. When he decides to marry is more because of the company and care, than by a passion or feeling of intimacy. The affection and the deep affection she feels for her husband is the typical response. This is when it comes to love and marriage. It is as if, after the ceremony ends up, could take a deep breath and felt relieved by the fact that little detail has to be resolved. For that he could finally turn to the things that matter most in life, work and ideas. Golden aura, a man or woman, understands better than anyone else the value of companionship, but are likely to be problems when you cannot recognize and meet the desires and needs from your partner. Often looking through reasoning calculate what went wrong, reacting to the situation of the mental point of view, instead of trying to feel the innermost desires and wishes that your partner is trying to express. How is a living being preferably in mind, usually becomes intellectual, to feed the intellect, will travel to conferences and events, hoping to find a way that will address situations that often have pending. Jos Cruz. 174. Instead, just need a bit trying to understand the need for a change in the mental part, which would lead to a new consensus of attitudes and behaviors on your part, to his partner Array. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Spirit Leader. The golden color is that these beings close to her spirit, often without the knowledge that represents lead. One of the particular techniques of these beings is to include others in the discovery of the facts during the process of taking decisions. When confronted with a question beaked, this being encourages its staff to present findings that lead to the total understanding of all facets of a situation. His team likes this form to administer, and it provides services and swears loyalty in exchange for the opportunity to be heard. But he does not usually swayed by the opinions or feelings of those who work with him. Instead, listen with great attention, note all data submitted to it, but yet organize them as reserves the right to make the final decision. It is very loyal and dedicated, working hard to fulfill their professional commitments. This being the golden aura is an excellent average executive, as it constitutes the channel through which information goes from bottom to top, within of any one company. His personal strength is its ability to pay attention to detail that most other people ignore or do not understand mentally. It prides itself on a job well done, no matter how boring or unexciting might have been. When asked how she can stand such a boring job, says he does not consider it boring, and someone has to do, and that someone may well be himself. Jos Cruz. 176. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Money. With regard to your finances, golden aura, which seems so dispassionate about everything else in life, can be very sensitive with respect to economic and financial issues. During his personal relationships, it intrigued him feeling pain and anger, the reason for this apparent inconsistency of his personality, due to the fact that he had a lot of awareness about the issue of security. Money is one of the things he cannot predict or control by logical means. So their attitude towards him is prudence, and distrust. All financial decisions are taken with great fear and caution. He thinks of her bank account as collateral, their way of life and away from misery. Anything that endangers or change your social status can feel the panic. Why be so aware in respect of money? It does not take financial decisions quickly. All options have to be subjected to a very large and detailed study, so you can in conscience to take an absolute right decision. This will not be quite the opposite bet on risks involving their finances. When the potential loss is greater than the gain, he will decide to safer financial option. This being Auric Gold is also not very creative about the way to make money. Jos Cruz. 178. Leaving only restricted to the more conventional ways, working for a paycheck right, and striving to have a nest egg, or a plan for future reform, and often turns to real estate investments, with the thought of coming off the large sums of money to win money. The golden professions where this can be more professionally succeed, are those that somehow require a direct application of their mentality. As mathematicians, judges, engineers, computer or as instructors due to its rational part is very meticulous. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Spirituality. Concerning the spirituality will be Auric Gold, just sees it as a study of higher order of the universe and the laws and principles that govern it. He wants to understand the organization through the mind. As he flees, spirituality cannot be understood by the mind but by the spirit. This is beyond the golden auric called concept of God. It is in part able to imagine and read about it or think about it, but finding it hard to understand. Prefers to think about spirituality and what holds in more rational terms. Understand the miracle of creation as a puzzle to be solved, an equation to be understood. For this reason, you feel much more comfortable in a religion that offers a doctrine that is governed by laws or commandments. This must be the hope of obtaining accessibility in relation to God through any way. But as afraid of upsetting the form, and thus destroy the possibility of knowing God, he is anonymous. That is why it is very rare to find someone who treads the golden path of spiritual quest. Jos Cruz. 180. Rather than engaging in this long journey to God, he can see spirituality as a synonym of duty, justice and honor. When this is the color Auric Gold and lives according to spiritual values, he went on to feel in their deepest intimacy, which is true peace, the inner order, and trust eternal. After that he already feels he can play God. The Book of Auras. Violet. Aura. Jos Cruz. 182. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 The Wisdom. The violet color is one of the existing spectrums, which relates the wisdom of man. Therefore be the possessor of auric violet color, besides being a scholar by nature with regard to human evolution. Its color is also related to the spiritual evolution. The color violet is to be well balanced between the mind and spirit, because of this strong has the power balance and the formula to be conclusive about the future of humanity. As one of the ways that this be found to apply their full potential, it is through that you understand and feel, making your vision to the world and the future. He needs to feel the true meaning of your life, applying his talent to causes. Need to update with the social changes that will impact positively on the future. One of the things extremely difficult for this to be a purple aura is learning to live without guilt about everything. Because the guilt originates its own critique, which requires him to always do everything perfect and faster. This gives rise remorse, and sometimes even angry with himself. One way for him to overcome these situations is to focus the most visible through its interior, projecting its contents to the future. But while feeling and living, according to all that life expected of him. Jos Cruz. 184. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2 Power to Transform. This being auric violet color, is rather theoretical, not interested in the practical application of an idea, just what inspires you is what is behind it. He does not care to note whether a particular mechanism works, you only get it to work. Due to its lack of interest in mechanisms that allow you to change your ideas from more palpable reality, Most of the time he needs to rely on other people, something material to design a boat for example. Without this outside support their ideas do not flourish and are retained in a loop inside your mind. This auric violet has the habit of thinking that because you have had conceived an idea or a project, they already exist in reality and are ready to be implemented quickly, without looking back. The violet auric can often mean is ambitious in its pursuit of monetary assets and additions, thereby demonstrating a strong connection to the physical world. However, the reality is quite different. He is interested in money and goods. He knows that to make changes, you must have money power. Goods and money in some cases may allow the power and ability to inspire and motivate others. He is able to live in a simplistic way, with a little luxury. Material things are meaningless to be violet aura, except as representative pieces of something. Jos Cruz. 186. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 Intelligence. This is violet aura is quite clever. And to think critically, so they have a chance to evaluate and develop some very creative ideas. When it can be generalized to find out the part that does not fit the best, and it applies even to find the ideal output. This is how we discovered the missing piece to the puzzle. By understanding what does not work, find other solutions, is trying to highlight a product or sell a new plan, or when looking for alternative solutions to problems fashioned. He can understand the concept of things from the idea of each thing individually. He is always looking for the law or principle governing an issue. Develop criteria by which complicated apply his trial, evaluating all the components in your experience. Our auric violet is troubled, giving the impression of being critical and lives to find fault in others. Unlike his to express their displeasure at the fact that others cannot see things as him, so clear. Research is one of their natural strengths. She loves to stimulate the mind in search of a research idea to its essence, or to follow it to its outcome. Jos Cruz. 188. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 Emotional State. The emotional part of being a violet aura is very deep. He can feel the passion burning inside. But outwardly it may seem cold, aloof and arrogant, but it is only in its self-defense system against a possible invasion on your emotional part. The stone in your shoe is the path that tends to reach your soul. Often that person gives the feeling of inner strength, as confident and practical, but it really is not anything like that. Because it has doubts about himself. This will happen because of this being violet have been many times ahead of its time. And then for lack of spiritual self-confidence, he writhed in time. Thus feeling retarded and emotionally moved many times to others, leading him to close within. He raised barricades of superiority and distance to protect him. From an emotional standpoint, it is very sensitive and very intuitive. Jos Cruz. 190. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Passion. This is violet auric expressed their sexuality with deep passion, to get a feeling of fullness. For this you need to marry early either by desire or love. His way of communicating what they feel is through sexual stimuli higher than the bound for a higher spiritual level. As a lover, can intuitively feel the true needs of the sexual partner, from their cosmic vibrations. If the couple needs to have a prolonged initiation, and sensual, it will induce the soft and squishy as best in their peer self-esteem and self-confidence. Because he has the power to intuitively embrace and feel what goes into the depths of his loving couple. This color is violet due to not having much confidence in himself when it comes to intimate relationships. He is jealous about everything, even their own children. It is a very emotionally demanding partner. When you take the role of father-mother, it becomes critical and demanding. This person has a dynamic energy and an attitude serene, wants things done and nothing else. Violet auric need to get used to charge with most of the weight of responsibility in a relationship when you cannot give what is required of them to feel angry at yourself. Jos Cruz. 192. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Women and Men. The violet aura for women having to endure a great social pressure for them to perform tasks more worthy of passivity, often lead them to take steps backward to its very strong and dynamic nature. When forced by family or society to merit the more passive, violet aura women get angry, exploding through aggressive, demanding, and quite often seek understanding of setting goals too high for her husband and children. The clinging to external models and lack of communication between them can create an impenetrable wall between them, often leading to breakdown of the relationship. The men of aura violet tend to be very intense in his quest for a safer pillar that leads to spirituality. This is sensitive and takes deep bonds with their mate, and leaving the other in most cases, the consummation of all your needs loving. For this to be auric violet, expect your partner relationship gives you all the friendship, companionship and love. In their intimate relationships this is violet, who besides being jealous, it grows to egoism in demanding and becoming possessive. Jos Cruz. 194. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Positive Ego. The positivity of the ego of the person who works for money sets targets that determine the degree of success of one's personality. The ego also protects the accumulation of data, serving both as a motivator or filter the cosmos. The great needs of the ego of the aura violet are diverse: personal power, social influence, status, pride, power, money and more. But it also has aspiratory capacity and motivating to others, often leading them to do things and not wanting to take sides. One of his inner strength is the ability to do something for your family or business. The ego of this being auric violet is a secondary need is to prove something through an idea or life force coming from perhaps the universe that makes you feel less him. This person has a powerful positive ego, by the united strength of his soul to the universe. These two aspects are very important, and the balance between them creates a pressure to be dominant in the intellect of violet. For him this pressure creator, or the power to transform into a being properly prepared for the future of humanity, it makes one hopeful. Jos Cruz. 196. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Easy Money. Being possessed of aura violet knows to make money easily without much effort, more than any other being the holder of any other color aurica. This is meant to know how to work less and earn more. As a rule it is quite lazy, chooses to make money without making much effort. To think it is work, your ideas are part of their intellectual assets. This may be violet. Consider yourself an expert in being late and settling their accounts. If someone offers to pay in his place, not blinking admits right away, even when they have more financial opportunities than those offered. Before offering a gift, he thinks carefully about all the factors before deciding how much you spend monetarily, as well as its purpose, the term of friendship or intimate relationship, or the importance of the occasion, which will gain in return. This habituation stems from fear that he has that you require more than willing to offer a silly mind. In another way, this is not usually violet color abdicate for him in anything in terms of material goods. Being quite, but only bought exactly what you need and nothing more. This aura violet is very intuitive about money. Seems to feel where the jobs are, where to find new opportunities to make money easily, and yet, what new products or services that will have more output. Jos Cruz. 198. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Professions. When a being auric violet listening to your inner voice, in line with their experience of life, leads him to seek a profession of the most diverse, ranging from real estate, the coach may be political, etc. This type of person, when working with raw materials due to their strong motivation, it is truly inspiring. Can even be a good journalist or reporter. Why not just see the stories of the day? Have the ability to go further, developing a whole process from beginning to end. By being able to see so many possibilities in the future, does well in a higher category management, having the ability to lay down policy, as well as the ability to delegate responsibilities to implement this policy. Also does well in the field of medicine or law, where there is much to learn and develop, resulting in these specialties. Jos Cruz. 200. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Learning. This aura being the color violet, learn intuitively, and when you feel touched by it, that leaves you with a feeling of having overcome something that was previously out of reach. Thus felt that added something more to what existed naturally in him. Due to this, the beloved in the reign of the mind learns very professions that have the element of creativity, and at the same time let yourself move more. It also has great ability to learn scientific methods, all with regard to the theoretical assumption. Could evolve in art or writing, because this learning to make you feel good about himself and learning more every time we learn more. He also likes to learn economics, sociology or anthropology among other professions. Jos Cruz. 202. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Mission. To a violet auric, spirituality means to agree with the essence of his own soul, fulfilling your destiny. Intuitively he feels he has a mission that needs to be realized. Many people possess auras. Violets refuse to recognize the power that exists in spirituality and how much could change their lives. This concept of mission, they feel, is nothing more than a feeling that every once in a while witnessed by his intuition, which usually only applies in everyday life, not going beyond that. In other words, feel they have a personal relationship with their whole. Other people do not believe in spiritual quests or something that has to do with it. Define how ethical or moral principles by which people choose and live. But all violet aura have the notion that there is something greater than them, but as living beings are more in rationalism cannot reach this unknown superior, although this has to be some tendency to align him with any religion. You must always feel at ease to their own idealism, apart from what others believe. He understands and obeys the universal laws, for he knows the concept of marriage karmic return. Jos Cruz. 204. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Religiosity. By the fact that this auric violet color most often does not identify their spirituality does not mean that it is not very religious and loving God's call, in the religion to which he belongs, because he needs the house of God to comfort within, in the most desperate of his life. This happens due to your stubbornness to try to understand, and then feel the messages that come from your deepest intimate, flowing out to the consciousness begins to resemble what the spirit asks. When this does not happen, and this is auric violet insists on continuing to live in the mind with ideas that she builds, and ignoring what is happening around them, as well as their health. This tends to be a very sick, always starting with the psyche. That's where all the health problems begin, leading later to spread to the rest of the body, developing the most diverse pathologies. For this and other statements I made in previous chapters, violet auras should better take into account what happens in reality in the depths of his heart, and just let them sink to the top that exists within the same inside. Jos Cruz. 206. The Book of Auras. Orange. Aura. Jos Cruz. 208. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1 Personality. A being auric orange is one of the beings who need to successfully complete all in their physical environment. Being fearless, powerful and careless with their personal safety, raise their fists against their own higher power. One of the biggest challenges of any person holding an aura orange is to interact with society becoming more advanced. Not so much face survival issues, but with complex ethical and moral issues. Being with that color aura prefer a challenge that requires more from mental than physical courage. However, the society in which they live forces to attack and penetrate it. What it needs to resort to a very high spiritual strength. But does he have the audacity to discern between the two factors? Courage is the most adequate to cope with physical hardship, and to relate to their spirits. One of the lessons of life often felt because this is auric orange is that there are physical limits with regard to human possibilities. This being rather than consecutively strive to identify its limits, it needs more to learn to apply the existing energy into your being, to uncover other dimensions inert inside. This has to be instinctively feels the need to live, so that by the age that he acquired the experience of living together, and attached to a more obscure the moral courage to take to wake up more consciously. Jos Cruz. 210. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2 Physical Challenge. A being auric orange is understood as being the most intelligent, strong and cunning of human beings. It's like he tries to illustrate that it is more cunning than a lion, an eagle faster and more agile as a panther. It permeates the excitement of physical challenge, allied to the idea of fighting unarmed against a lion, among other examples of the same type, which many people would shy away from such irony of thought. He loves the idea of facing such emotions. This being orange auric can spend the night developing the various scenarios in your mind. While other people with other colors auras, would be to think about the wounds and pain that would bring fearless, while it would be just looking at the possibility of still being alive, deep in the struggle of life and death, unless you are going to be a matter of life or death. On this side he does not feel either excited or proud, with their adventures created within your mind. In any event you are faced his challenge, he always reacts physically. This orange auric experiences feelings of arousal when facing any challenge that you encounter. Whether making charcoal, or to be a police trap to catch any animal, or descend to the seabed. For this to be anything that has to do with physical challenge and danger he loves. Jos Cruz. 212. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3 When Danger Children. The parents of a child of aura orange, who is learning to walk for example, have to be careful to keep them away from it all, what is dangerous or high and can sink. Is that the child has no fear of falling or hurting yourself when exploring this vast world we live to big. When they do, these types of accidents cause more emotional distress to parents. The physical pain that these children orange. It's as if they had any memory of suffering. Give to continue seeking further situations that challenge bravely to cross this dangerous challenges. One factor that these parents often face is trying to figure out how to have the children at ease as well as the surrounding space for them to come to grow and develop to the fullest in all aspects necessary to its adult life without being concerned with the safety of these children. Jos Cruz. 214. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4 The Mental. A being auric orange cannot live in the realm of imagination. You need to test whether one can even apply that imaginative. Prepare everything in detail, mentally reviewing the way and the whole picture that will lead to completion of the same plan. To the extent that the plan was reflected in his mind, he wills increasingly identifying with the various aspects of the same plan, and will trigger the many security measures to be introduced in this plan. Come this way to add more difficulties for him, increasing his physical and vibration, bringing you an enormous sense of inner well-being. With regard to the educational system, he does not fare that well in solving mathematical problems, the same does it become resentful or angry, which is often seen as indifferent or boring considering the educational process grinder, preferring to relate to life in general, leaving behind these parts bureaucratic. Because not afraid of pain, is making rashes often unwise. This behavior can cause that creates problems with school discipline, and do not stay the very well regarded. He is very intelligent but can be seen as someone trying to survive in these respects that as an intellectual. Jos Cruz. 216. This auric orange school uses their knowledge to plan a safari to Africa to exploit, or to organize an event any risk. Being very meticulous calculations, spending hours on end, looking at everything mentally, the amount and type of accessories you need. In these respects realism leaves emerge. He has the ability to assess a situation through the eyes of his opponent, proud to penetrate the core of your opponent, either a person or thing belonging to material nature. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Living. This being orange aura vacillates between joy and sheer existence. For him to go to the supermarket or watching television are ways to pass the time. being prostrate before a danger, or a physical threat, or risk death, to be alive. You feel alive when on a plane and parachute, and jumps. The risks which normally take only have to do with your needs and nothing more. For this to be orange, to be alive, is to risk life, and everything else is a form of slow death into life. Why cannot fail to live dangerously? Not that it entails suffering to family members or close friends. It is an emotionally impenetrable lone misconduct, unless you're planning anything or repeating stories of his past proudly. Their ability to respond to the mental level is fixed, most primitive of human existence. Is not surprising that in their personality, does not seem to care about human feelings. The tenderness and passion, as well as consideration by other beings, have no sense of reality to it. So this becomes very lonely. This auric, the orange, seems to live all the fantasies the man makes for himself. Take a physical risk and return home unscathed gives you a great joy. Jos Cruz. 218. People with whom he interacts, by the way, you have to be outside in it. But apart from that, he does not care whether or not people are surprised with their boldness. Individualistic as it is with regard to your mind, does not take action to somehow impress others but to be emotionally satisfying. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Sex. One orange auriconaut finds nothing like the excitement of the challenge, everything, even to the sex, which comes second. For this to be, sex is a physiological need that the body needs to maintain a good balance between the mind and the physical, and nothing more than that. As people possessing aura orange, have a good physical presentation, and a very mischievous and playful way, are very attractive to others, and have no trouble finding other places for loving parties that are not yours. Although the sex to be this orange aura is relaxing and necessary, do not think it is worthwhile to subdue him, preferring more things that require physical risk on your part. How to conquer the person he is sexually related that after having dragged his wing, or abandons or adds to its historical record of achievements made. Jos Cruz. 220. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Compatibility. The very nature of being an orange aura is that it takes to be restricted about their involvement with another person, does not like to be responsible for the children or their companion. The beings of auras aura red and orange are not compatible. When they are together, there is a lot of energy in the air. Your questions are very similar. Nothing prevents the rise between these two people, as regards the attraction between two of the orange auras, which is rare, because both are very fickle. As neither admits to being dominated or controlled by another, in most cases go from the relationship. About aura is magenta, this greatly irritate the orange aura. The former usually measures success, distorting and deforming aspects of reality, while the second measures success in terms of overcoming challenges. Jos Cruz. 222. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8 Physical Colors. The innocence of a yellow aura, the funny think mumbo-jumbo that has an orange aura, but then soon loses enthusiasm for it. The orange aura is like danger and courage in any plane, while the yellow takes things more accurately and prudently. It is a auric gold, green and orange aura. The interval can have a relationship with the desire to live and be together. In that they understand that this relationship is no more than a convenient marriage for both. The first responds sexually to the necessary and required by the second, at the same time it gives you physical and mental health coverage you need. The orange aura turn seems natural to understand the negativity from the other. And anything else you require. Jos Cruz. 224. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9 Colors Mind. While enjoying a golden auric detailed portion, with what is being orange plans and aspires to higher temptations. What cannot understand is the supreme lack of negligence on its own intrinsically safe. For him to live life as if it were a circus, makes the aura orange, will bring unnecessary risks, considering this attitude foolish. What might the future bring? The fire discussions, in turn the aura orange. Consider this boring obsession with security from the other. Orange already is auric field attraction for aura green light. The bright intelligence of this being linked to its ability to challenge the planner puts it in very hot. If an aura is orange, ever even consider the possibility of getting married, will be with a green aura, because it indirectly lives the excitement of the first without making him feel guilty. Regarding auric golden blue, does not feel at all attracted by the characteristics of being aura orange, because it cannot understand how the ecstasy, the danger and recklessness might alter the quality of life for the better, in communication between a person's aura gold and red orange. The first plan everything mentally, while the latter spreads over everything and anything, with the intention of returning to rearrange. Usually the first moves away dull, while the second takes action. Jos Cruz. 226. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10 Leadership. A being auric orange is actually the circus. To be seen in terms of performance against many people, for it is the maximum, without expecting any reward. While others recognize him as a hero, he is surprised at himself. Because for him a hero is someone who plays something well that if he had another chance, would not in any way. How to enjoy jumping from an airplane in flight does not consider any heroic act at all. Orange makes a being the power to lead to others, to the aircraft commander for the expedition leader for the circus owner. None of this arouses your attention, due to not having an administrative capacity to plan, when he like the feel at liberty to make their exploits. Need some more acting individually. In competitions, has a preference for individual sports to team. Is appreciated and practitioner with respect to race, because of large machines allow you to test your physical ability, mental truthfulness and meeting your inner being brave. But before you start any race, is taken to evaluate the machine completely inside and out, in a practical and convenient, and only then come to sit inside. Next is the analytical study about the environment, weather conditions, type of journey etc. All the more your mind will require careful, for the proper performance of his figure in the competition, only then can choose to accept as appropriate. Jos Cruz. 228. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11 Finance and Professions. This auric orange professionally embraces various professions, which keeps their personal freedom. Just demanding to be paid for what they do best, create excitement and risk-taking. Hence we find plenty of oranges as brokers on the stock. Whatever the field of his choice for him to face its challenges, the tools have to be necessarily applying the best quality no matter the value. The money does not take into account as very valuable. He just wants the best. Why will intuitively know that a life not very long. This being orange and choose careers where the daring and danger go hand in hand. Preferring to work that will let the company faces dangerously. Can work as a laborer who builds oil platforms, to be a circus performer, and can serve as a guide expeditionary savannah or paratrooper. Do you tend to choose all the professions that require the greatest courage and physical prowess? That's how this kind of is like to live to be systematically put to the test against himself. Jos Cruz. 230. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Spirituality. The pursuit of spiritual auric self-orange is in truth, a search beyond himself. Because as it advances in age, it will take some puffs. What already has experienced and lived abroad and already beginning to feel that there is nothing for him to explore. It is from here then he will turn to its wide and deep interior. So while there is unwilling to face them, he will be going around cyclical, with him trying to challenge the higher power. Beings with this color aurica make the notion of being terrible to others. However, a true test of courage for this will be the face of its own. And only in this way down into the depths of his heart, lying there with his conscience, is quite satiating. Can then be wider in the future begun to understand with your intuition, and thus is led to a more self-conscious. So you can go find their way into spirit, and the same security that you can give. for in this way can then begin to change their standards of living for the purpose of self to recognize who he truly is. Jos Cruz. 232. The Book of Auras. Indigo. Blue. Aura. Jos Cruz. 234. The Book of Auras. Chapter 1. Who is? This is with the indigo blue, is a being that only began to be born 100 years ago, in large numbers. It was a color rarely seen before in human auras. But when the needs of the whole change, it is necessary that there are also changes in the constituent parts of the whole. With the aura also works the same way. This new color indigo appeared to increase markedly powers, faculties and physical development, as well as a much more different from the other auric colors. Parents of young aura indigo are facing a very perplexing challenge: how to care for and deal with these children so special. Some parents of some of these children accept and support these differences. They feel so proud to have children, which consider the super talented. And if these early fathers only teaching them the basics of life, are often tempted to learn from these indigo children still at an early age things that were unthinkable before they were born. Other young aura indigo unfortunately no longer have the same luck. The guardians or parents, during the initial growth of these indigos, not understanding and not to take them to whom I understood the law. Jos Cruz. 236. Pure and simply begin to look aside as being different from other children or young people. That in turn, and misery and suffering in all aspects of indigo beings, are labeled as mentally and physically disabled. But just what happens in reality is that these beings are well advanced in time, and most people do not understand them, much less feel them. The Book of Auras. Chapter 2. Compassion. One of the important factors on the indigo is that it has a completely new ability to lead. He feels that means a fully enlightened human being, without someone having taught how to identify it. One of the hardest things for the indigo is to develop patience and tolerance for others who still do not understand. Not that he lacks compassion. However, its form of compassion is to give other human beings time and space enough to draw their own conclusions. This being auric indigo has a biochemical system, different from other people with different auras, as well as their needs. He has the ability to feel the physical, mental and spiritual, a higher frequency. Due to having this ability, while still not know how to control, this being easily indigo discharges, if someone will not have time to instruct. As a rule may feel confused, and the head called air with noise and bustle, likewise being of crystal aura. He has a very sensitive nervous system. Jos Cruz. 238. The Book of Auras. Chapter 3. Food. This as indigo is a lot of sense, since its birth about everything you eat, even enjoying dairy products like yogurt or cream cheese. The indigo is allergic to cow's milk due to a negative hormone found in milk, which leads him to have respiratory congestion, cough and ear infections, must be exchanged for these dairy products and milk from goats, sheep or soy. Allergy disappears automatically. Because of his highly sensitive nervous system, it needs a quiet environment. When bound to be a long time to perform certain tasks, it requires more energy than you have, feel nervous and then to get angry, causing him to be unwell, including having no vomiting. But no vomiting is only to expel negative energy, which is in excess. These beings seem too spoiled, but in truth have very different needs, in order to survive in this world. Need to stimulate the logical side of the brain, left brain. So the intuitive side, right brain, very active, is free to roam in astral travel and more. The indigo will be to get used to relax the most, either through meditation or music with vibrating tones that identify with your being. That is why he maintains a relationship with the music very strong. Jos Cruz. 240. The Book of Auras. Chapter 4. Sexual Union. An auric indigo blue, in his temper often assumes a masculine and feminine at the same time. Due to this, when your life reaches adulthood, it is usually biased in regards to your sexuality. Can both relate sexually with beings like his sex and in reverse. To him it does not look to sexual discrimination. The purpose of this aspect of marriage is more than the Holy Spirit than with physics, sense of the union or with your couple. The sexual sensation you feel when you relate with your partner is so deep that the physical expended during the act is incomprehensible for this to be indigo. Due to this being, having the ability to renew it constantly, both physically and mentally and spiritually, in each of these acts, he will leave in time to have sexual needs, because of their spiritual evolution. Jos Cruz. 242. The Book of Auras. Chapter 5 Intellectual. The intelligentsia have to be born with this auric indigo is one of the most rewarding aspects it has. It's brilliant having an intelligence that goes far beyond the concepts rooted in the more rational society. This is indigo blue color as well as crystal, can be said to have been born with a guide of instructions for his experience ground. Already knowing beforehand all the answers to that question. Just do it to authenticate what they already know, to gain more self-confidence in themselves, or remember past lives. These beings of light, nothing to learn, only remember everything that brings in the luggage inside of your soul. It is common to ask about difficult things that call for thoughtful and wise. Early this being auric indigo, generally at around 2 years old, he already has a remarkable understanding of what is abstract. There is early. In fact, it is said that indigo represents the being of the future. Serving up their powerful intuition, he is not with half measures, going immediately to the marrow of things outright. Do not be fooled by what appears to be. These kids are completely independent without being arrogant, know exactly what they are, and who are unable to achieve. The normal school system, with its traditional way of learning, has nothing to do with this being indigo. Jos Cruz. 244. The Book of Auras. Chapter 6 Learning. Learning about being indigo, loves to be reminded of what we already know in your heart. Topics and ideas cannot exist in isolation to be this. He feels the world and share ideas as to unite the whole. Trying to understand something without taking into account its implications in other areas of knowledge, is something incomprehensible to him. He needs to feel like the pieces fit entirely in absolute perfection. And then simply forget what they learned mentally. Relying on the power universal will again give first hand whenever you need what you previously learned. Indigo this needs its own space they inhabit. Due to its high magnetic field is highly individual, need to be alone as a way to auto-load. Sometimes have difficulty expressing your feelings and views to others, talking to anyone who hears, exemplifying until you feel that the person understood it. Not that it has to touch the depths of the listener, to get the message that he has to give, if you do not feel sorry for failing to achieve this. When you feel that this is the establishment of education has nothing to remind them, he simply drops out, turning to the inner or spiritual study, as a way to rediscover himself, with or without outside help. Just feel it should. And when the decision takes intuitive or dissuades someone or something such. Jos Cruz. 246. The Book of Auras. Chapter 7 Self-Consciousness. Parents and caregivers of an indigo, should know to respect and talk to him, in an open, frank and clear in all conscience. Because only in this way is that it assumes new data to the inside. Otherwise it is impossible to get him to do anything that he does not feel and want. But cooperation is not brightly when treated with superiority. It may seem cold when it is underestimated, or simply do something happy, that makes people feel an intense inner joy. This is one of the potential that this being has to be able to exercise over people, to take them to meet their own. Other higher levels may be or say that blue indigo child is never even sees the child through the first years of life. It gives the feeling of being older than other children the same age. Reacting to news empathetically that life gives you, as well as in the most adverse and negative. Nothing is more than simply their way of being true and being. Indigo. These beings often talk about themselves, when they are young, and already young. This reality is because they are still in direct contact with the inside. The indigo also does well in environments that put some clear restrictions. Jos Cruz. 248. The Book of Auras. Chapter 8. Cooperation. When this indigo is treated with respect and dignity, it becomes highly cooperative, so that they know will only lead to it without going through the idea of corruption. Because this is not in any way admit that the attempt to manipulate what is on. He is absolutely invulnerable to feelings of shame, guilt or rejection. Preferring to lead the blame of their actions, to go against what you believe. No use in any way try to manipulate it with a sense of guilt is about what is. To take in more rigid positions or punishment in any way affect it, passing it unobtrusively on the side. This auric indigo feels exactly what you need. If someone promising option, you must imagine taking everything to the end. For what it promises and then not fulfilled, and not believe lead to these same people to you. Whether or not your family. However, the indigo does not hold a grudge against those who hurt. Just remember sporadically, starting immediately to initiate a screening of people who deserve your consideration, going to be cautious in offering its confidence. When you feel happy or when you overcome a barrier, do not feel excited. Because he was intuitively expected that this barrier will be overcome, just did not know exactly when it was. Jos Cruz. 250. The Book of Auras. Chapter 9. Communication. These beings, aura indigo blue in general, can only communicate in a way peculiar closely with very few people. Seizing an early age to be cautious, and selecting the people you can trust to share conclusions and feelings of every kind. They are obliged to make that choice because most people do not have capabilities to its height or greater than themselves. Die revealing that when trying to communicate with people of their caliber less, or give evil, or else it's like talking to a doll, getting up many times by the reserve itself. Indigo is one often feels lonely and detuned from others, because he has a high-frequency magnetic waves catch. It absorbs large amounts of other, harmful energies from your auric field. While this does not know indigo give back to the text, feels it is better to suffer the isolation, instability energy in all its integrity is. Unfortunately, when you cannot resolve this feeling of loneliness, that most people interpret it as such, is taken to depend on drugs. This gathering is a time as need, yes, the power in the universe you conceive him to be in tune with himself, but without drugs or other addictions. Jos Cruz. 252. In this way he came to discover the most appropriate way to overcome this phase. Which, though a bit confusing at first, but over time though will. If an indigo master will find a time to take him to discern the real from the imaginary, is a breeze. If it is only by your foot becomes more difficult and suffering, taking longer. The Book of Auras. Chapter 10. Choices. This often chooses indigo-loving couple who are first of all great friends and companions, and then passing the lovers. We prefer people with strong personalities, firmly rooted in the modern world, and having a great contempt for the weak and needy people. The indigo requires that your family and friends to act as a safety net, to feel at ease before the world. You need someone you can trust. In relationship to two, not like having to control their instincts, and therefore is looking for people who need to communicate through the spirit. Any indigo is a leader to follow your own intuition. Do not lead with strength, will or personality. Its power lies in the rewards and indifference by refusing to be manipulated. He leads by doing rethink and re-examine the beliefs, values and way of doing things. By questioning the practices of tradition, it often leads people to become aware of their reckless acts on the actions they take. Jos Cruz. 254. The Book of Auras. Chapter 11. Personality. The touchstone of his personality, and his personal power and the way they lead, is a refusal to be coerced or manipulated, even by himself or through his mind. No consequence is so severe, no penalty is so great that makes you abandon your goals. This can often be indigo, uniquely represent a completely selfless human being. You can incorporate into all of life's challenges. When you are born, already know that life is made up of joy, not avoiding pain but accepting it with compassion. A person does not realize indigo almost no money, and sees it as part of the social system, used by some people to control and direct the most disadvantaged about work, because he likes it, and because you feel good working. If you find boring or an occupation which requires more effort than has been established, it leaves you asking for salary increase. Lazy has nothing, but only performs the tasks he enjoys. That puts him in a situation that makes him think how he can make money doing what you love. Living in order to share expenses and responsibilities works well in a relationship with him. Any indigo is very skilled in dealing with electronic devices. What makes him a much sought after is because it is a futuristic vision. Jos Cruz. 256. It can also be a great doctor, parapsychologist, writer, biologist or scientist. Rather, professions that have to do with justice, political, or domestic work no longer have anything to do with it. The Book of Auras. Chapter 12 Spirituality. This is indigo blue or Ekfeel, the spirituality, as that part of himself, which is a reflection of the divine. For him, spirituality is related to reality, things as they are in fact good. As it grew in part be wise, due to mutation and biochemical energy that allows you to enter empathic connection with everything. He sees the human search for spirituality as something secular. But it is curious that this is an indigo aura of beings with better capabilities for secular spiritual practices. Do not apply them. He even likes to meditate, just out of curiosity, as he likes to objects for religious ceremonies. Some rituals and objects to those terms that the indigo can use, are not seen by him as a way to have fun. But to some extent he respects the religion, when they fulfill the purpose for which they are intended. He feels that since there is a small universal setting, which has very little to do with the norms and rules that people have created. In conclusion, this is auric of got indigo blue, knows and feels all that is holy. But also due to its recent appearance in the world, which he still was unable to adapt properly. Rules emanating from the society of which he is a part. Is still quite confusing where it came from, and what came to. He is often between a rock and, slowly trying to feel where the most affordable way to meet face to face with God. Jos Cruz. 258. The Book of Auras. Meaning of colors in secondary human auras. Jos Cruz. 260. The Book of Auras. Secondary colors. Most people visualize the auras, many of them, beyond the basic color of their auras. Have other secondary color, mixing with the original or often blurred in one form or another, thereby changing the lives of all people, and there are some additional knowledge, the basic colors that have been described thus far, through the colors what constitutes a spectrum of the universe. I will give you some knowledge of signs and colors that can also be viewed, beyond their basic colors that exist after the birth of any human being. The same to have their representation in the daily lives of every person in all the symptoms and problems they are a forum physical, mental or spiritual. Then the colors that present themselves as pure are, as the name indicates, the total purity. Identify that the person is in good health, or that may be raised to a higher level, that its basic color. Or is it to alter its basic color to a color more superior in terms of quality of life in relation to health in general and in terms of spirituality? If you have specific color matte, will mean that there is a problem with the person themselves, in the area of the body where it will be seen through the display. That should be in any part of the body, an organ or identify member in a situation weakened. Jos Cruz. 262. I must add that for anyone reading Aura made by anyone, a little more developed on these visualization techniques, described throughout this book, you should always bear in mind that should not be charged in addition to whatever it is for that, but loses the power of visualization, corresponding to what we had. It should always be aware of what identifies you without be able to make a mistake, to whomever. Because this may endanger a person's life viewed in any respect. So I trained a lot. Also I will mention that when someone asks you to read the aura, you must certify always necessary if this is in terms of assessing the health of the person concerned, or simply just out of curiosity. If the latter, tell the person to go for a walk or do something different that has nothing to do with you. Because if they choose to request that someone's curiosity, do not forget that that same someone, many sounds on or off it seems, is trying to suck the life force that has the ability to visualize any aura. Also add that when one takes a completely serious visualization, and so it should always be well done, to get a full result, and pure, total visualization of all, to another person. Same as the aura will be read, you must advance also to find a place to acquire, with a quiet no noise at normal room temperature without drafts and relying entirely on the person that you will read the aura. This person to visualize, you will need to undress completely, because only in this way is it possible to do a reading at 100 degree, and not otherwise, because the clothes do not assist in this visualization, dragging their colors to the aura of the person, that way confuse the person who reads the aura. Only in this way is it possible a perfect reading, in the entire body. The Book of Auras. But if not a thorough reading, so you can just stand at the head region. But it is to take into account that the person presents himself to be visualized trunk naked or with a piece of clothing that white area, as well as the background the same color. But just visualize on more superficially, as described earlier in the techniques of visualization, at the beginning of the book. It's just not as reliable. Jos Cruz. 264. The Book of Auras. Pure colors. Pure white represents the purity of being with him and others, and innocence to all of nature. This gives color to the person but also sterility. But it also has the power to transform them. Yellow, it means striving, but not enough to ascend spiritually and be in harmony with the universe. Blue, it is the representative of everything that has to do with love, and the general health, including a person of great lucidity about everything and everyone, being too serious sign of repentance. It also has to do with all the satisfactions with respect to its interior and exterior. Rose expresses general good feelings in addition to large demonstrations of harmony and love both for themselves and for others. Great occurs in people who feel about especially by someone or something. Feeling anxious or not to resolve situations, leaving grow something of fear in their hearts, and leading him to fear. Jos Cruz. 266. Violet power to give up everything that is material or mental, walking on the peak demand of spirituality, and its maturity green dominates the journey to the interior of your intimate, note to self, hopeful access many secrets kept inside. Red brutality of the matches wills is accompanied by great passions of lust, lot of mental intensity. Being that does not evolve in the violence, betrayal, feeling angry, ND led to tragedies. Black no color equals negativity and all that entails. As total failures, black magic, encompassing mental illness that sometimes leads to such dependencies. The Book of Auras. Signs aura as identifier. During an auric of you will have a lot more attention to several signs that are beyond the basic color as well as the secondary colors, joined or overlapping involving the human aura. That way you will know how to recognize these signs, which are extremely important for an interpretation, and correct reading of the human aura in more depth. Signs attached to the base color and the secondary colors, lead to discern all the problems that a person has, or will have, as a whole evolutionary status. These signs are visible and identified as clouds, holes, evasions. bosses, and flashes of light and glare, or mental forms. These are not only visible on the auric over the head but throughout the body, because the entire aura adds. When they are on a chakra or a member, this indicates that it is bad. Clouds identify themselves as energy blockages. Usually come in dark gray. This means that the person already has a health problem already well entrenched old, bringing you all kinds of imbalances to the person in all aspects. Jos Cruz. 268. Evasions as a rule are colored gray, dark or white. Such evasions are due to energy losses, which come out through the aura by the type of a chimney of a blast furnace. But this only happens when there is excess energy in person. Nuances: this type of signal indicates that the person already has a problem. And that indicates that it will aggravate, usually detected by a color ranging from gray to board. Flashes of light and glare: this type of motion signal represents astral and mental, being attached to the sentimental person. And that same feel anxious in finding something. That normally has to do with spirituality. Holes: the holes define notorious pranic severe power shortages, so one tends to develop more diverse pathologies. As the poor blood circulation, for example. Protrusions: these correspond to energy stagnation. To be found mainly in people who lead a more sedentary life, presenting color gray. Mental forms: the thought forms that are generated in the mind are notorious forms now in the most varied objects, or symptoms such as anger and negativity. This happens because of mental fixation for a long time, the person on so many different situations without resolve, often dragging on for years. The Book of Auras. Thanks. I am humbly grateful to all who had the privilege of reading all these lines, but now back to reread in consciousness. And this consciousness is to act only in accordance with it. Grateful. Jos Cruz. Technical edition, Jos Cruz. Title: The Book of Auras. Author: Jos Cruz. www.reincontrodilas.com. DL 335446/11. Jos Cruz.